what y'all know about us?
Oh, listen, don't get me to start coughing and choking already.
I'm ready to pause, baby.
You'll get crazy already.
So 216 of More Than the Title. You already know your favorite podcast. I'm your host as usual, Jared, Chief Revenue Officer at Outside the Box Digital. And of course, I got my brother, my brethren, your favorite CEO, Chatty O. What's good, baby?
I'm alive.
He's here.
I'm alive. Whatever that sickness or that little virus I caught tried to take your boy out, but I'm alive. You know what I'm saying? So a little bit of that. But ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is. We're gonna muster up. We're gonna muster up because it's Pod Day. What's one of our favorite days of the week? Pod Day. So it's Pod Day. We're gonna have another amazing episode with another phenomenal guest. And I said it. Listen, get your tape decks ready.
He used his original voice for that one.
Yeah.
You already know. So listen, rounding out the Magnificent Three, because that's what we call ourselves now, the Magnificent Three, is my girl in the Hollywood Square below me, The Balance, aka Nadej. Nadej, what's up, mamas?
You already know it is. It's Pod Day. And like you said before, it's amazing, phenomenal episode we're about to have. I'm geeked. I'm excited. And I got, you already know, got the notebook, got the pen. I'm ready to take some notes, because I know we're about to get some real good gems today. So
there it is. I love it. And ladies and gentlemen, you know how we like to start every show. G&T, grateful and thankful. This G&T goes out to a very special person. Cuzzo just hit me up and let me know that a viewer of our show that we didn't know actually viewed the show was so intrigued at the fact that we were going to the Cannes Festival that they took it upon themselves to design some merchandise for us and gift it to us. And man, this is what we talk about, right? Like, that is such a blessing. I just want to say thank you so much to whoever designed the t-shirts and the bag for Mika. We truly appreciate it. It's people like that let us know that we are doing the right thing and the message is getting across. So G&T goes out to our fans, the people that let us know they're watching, and sometimes the people that don't let us know they're watching, but we know you paying attention. So shout out to y'all, man. We know that the message is getting through.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, of course, man. We got to acknowledge them.
Shout out to her, man. You already know. Shout out to our home team, the Live Podcast Network, the first woman-owned, black-owned podcast network in the world, and the largest black-owned podcast network in the world. So if you want more content from More Than the Title, or creators like More Than the Title, make sure you take out your phone, scan the QR code, download the app, and half of your subscription goes to the content creator of your choice, y'all. So we don't just talk it, we walk it, we ride with our own. And what do we say? What a time to be alive. Shout out to Angel.
What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive.
Now y'all ready to get to it? Because this brother,
I'm ready. I'll get my energy up.
Let's get to it. This intro is gonna be a doozy.
Hold on. Do I need to give you some church music or something to kind of warm you up or something? Give you a little.
You gotta feel it. Oh yeah.
I need. Bring it down, brother. Bring it down, brother Jared. Brother Jared, bring it down, brother Jared.
That's the one.
There you go.
I'm taking them to church.
Oh, man.
Let's take them to church. So first and foremost, y'all, welcome back to More Than the Title. Y'all know what it is. If you're a first-time viewer, it's the show where we go beyond the resume to uncover the real story, strategy, and just the journey of some of the most powerful leaders in the game. Today's no different. We got a heavyweight in the building. He is one of the masterminds behind Verzuz, the global phenomenon to redefine the music culture during the time when the world needed connection the most. With over 6 billion views and 1 million plus locked into every battle, he's been steering the ship, the vision, precision, and unmatched impact. Before Verzuz, he was the president and the COO of Beyonce's Parkwood Entertainment. Yes, that Parkwood. And from the Super Bowl halftime show to Lemonade, the Coachella's iconic Homecoming performance, he's helped shape some of the most game-changing cultural moments of our time. He's a Grammy and Peabody Award winner, a deal maker, a boardroom boss, a strategic force for brands like Miele Organics, WWE, IMAX, and many more. So let's start it off. But you've seen him on the Verzuz. You've seen him in the boardrooms for sure. You've seen him on other podcasts. You're going to see him potentially at Cannes this year. We're going to throw the potentially at Cannes this year. But right now, he's at your favorite podcast. Let's introduce our brother, CEO or president of Verzuz, and our brother, Mr. Steve Pamon, y'all. Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Oh,
appreciate you. First of all, man, shout out to the energy because let me tell you, I've done a few of these things. Most people know I like to just stay behind the scenes and but I love the energy you guys brought up, seen a few of the episodes and honestly, man, some things are better in person than as a viewer. I can just tell you, just feeling the energy and enthusiasm from you guys is just amazing. So hopefully I can
Appreciate
live
you,
up
bro.
to it, man. Everything's on the table. Like you said, we talking as friends, we talking as brothers and sisters. I just always start with the caveat of if I knew everything about everything, bro, we'd be doing this podcast on my island somewhere. But right now we in my home
Woo!
office. So, we all are living the dream and we all got somewhere to go. But at the same token, we all are super blessed to be here. I grew up a little bit longer than you guys, and I will say, it was a miracle to be able to have these type of shows, to be able to talk directly and to be honest, for you guys to control your own destiny, man. We used to dream about this. I've still come from the era where we ran home on Thursday night so we could see the Cosby Show. And the
Yeah.
biggest criticism people saw intelligent Black folks talking amongst each other was, wait a minute, that must be phony. So it's okay to see scientists get belted by gamma rays, turn into a green monster, and destroy the world every week, right? That's not phony. But to see a Black doctor and a Black lawyer raise a family and listen to jazz music and go through their mistakes and trials and tribulations, wow, that's too phony for us. That's crazy.
You
Yeah,
gotta.
yeah.
There
So
you
we got
go.
two screaming
There you
babies.
go.
Got two
There you
screaming
go.
babies on there.
Absolutely. But like I said, man, I dreamed about this time. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to everybody listening out there because this just the first stage. I can't wait to see where this goes for you guys and where this goes for the culture overall.
That
Yeah.
means
I mean, like
Yeah.
like Cuzzo likes to say, Steve, since you said that you've been around a little longer than us, let's start at the beginning, man. We like to
Yeah.
start and we like to paint the picture, like,
Yeah.
story.
Yes, sir.
Let's
Yes,
start at
sir.
your youth, man. Like where was you born at? What was, young Steve like? What was your household like, your
Yeah.
upbringing?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. I love it. I lost my father a few months ago, so still processing that, man. But I was born on the south side of Chicago. Literally grew up on 80th and Green. Was one of those typical, stories. And I tell this all the time. I grew up with love, man. I didn't grow up with stress. My mother had me. She was 20. My father was 19. They were freshmen in college at Northern Illinois University. So my father's frat brothers watched me during the day while my mother went to school. Then my father went at night. And so we grew up in that kind of household. And they were both some of the oldest of their siblings. They had big families. So, I was with my grandparents on both sides and with the big family. So even though I was my mother and father's only child, I grew up with tons of love, tons of, support. And so, goes back to that had pros and cons. I used to sleep in the bed. I was, what we call face on feet, with two of my younger uncles. Maybe three of us in there. You know what I mean?
Those
My
face.
face, my
I like
face
to sleep
is
with
on the
Johnny
there
B.
you go. My face is on the footboard, and they got the headboard and the
Right,
good
right.
pillows. You know what I'm saying? My pillow was never cold, right? I thought that to me was accoutrement when I got older. But the
Right.
same token, man, we didn't grow up poor. My mother was a school teacher, and so I didn't know any kind of stress in that regard. So we, were typical middle class. My mother didn't have enough to take care of her, but she made sure everything was straight for me. And so the biggest thing, man, growing up, being exposed as a teacher's son, my father was a cop. And if you know anything about Chicago, growing up in the 70s when I grew up, for Black men and women, if you could get a job at the city, at the post office, at the police station, or at the school, that was middle class. That was our way out. So again, all I knew was that type of supportive system. I couldn't get in trouble after school because my father's friends would check me. I couldn't get in trouble in school because my mother and her sorority sisters would check me. And so, growing up, as I would say, average height, average build in South Side of Chicago, you had to learn to talk your way out of situations. Like the great Richard Pryor once said, a person made me unball my fist once. At a certain point, I wouldn't, let's just say I wasn't the number one draft pick for the Gangster Disciples. If you get me, all you getting is extra person. You ain't getting no extra muscle.
Message.
So yeah, absolutely. And so, again, I grew up with, that support, that protection, but most importantly, I grew up with the expectation that I was going to college, right? And we'll talk about it later. But the expectations, forget about your surroundings. My surroundings, again, I didn't know I lived in a rough area, let alone one of the roughest in the country, till I left. When you're in the surrounding, you don't know that. You think that's the way.
That's
You
real.
know, and talking about, the biggest step, man. And I had so much support at home. Through luck, I was able to go on a Black college tour with a good friend of mine, Ruben Grant, and his church. And we went, outside the city. We used to in Chicago, we had a term going down south, right? So if you had grandparents or had somebody down there, you could go down there for a week or two. That was the extent of my travels, was going down south. But when I went on this Black college tour, stopped in Tennessee, in Nashville, saw Tennessee State and Fisk. Then we went to Atlanta and saw the Atlanta University Center, Morris Brown, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark. Then going down to Tallahassee, FAM, all the way back up to DC, Howard. I saw something, at a young age that I'd never seen before, which is not only a mirror, I saw a window, right? That, what, wow, this could be better than what it is. And again, authentically better. I saw people out, to be honest, drinking beer, talking crazy, doing all type of stuff. But you talk to them for more than a few minutes, you realize, wait, this person's studying pre-med. This person's already a dentist. This person's a lawyer. This person's a nurse. And it came from me at that instance that I knew I wanted to go to historically Black college, not because I frankly studied in depth that experience, but I felt like, wait a minute, there's no duality. These people are accomplished people, but instead of me having to change who I am to be them, I could be my authentic self, and was able to go to Morehouse and frankly change my life. I was one of the defining moments is I came out of high school on track earlier than normal. So I was 16 years old in Atlanta, first day in the dorm, from Chicago. So y'all think, okay, I'm from the South Side of Chicago. If I go to school with all Black men, I know Black men, I'm comfortable. Again, once you think you know something, you really don't, right? So in that first night in the dorm room, when I heard one of my partners from New York speak, when I heard one of the homeboys from Seattle, across the way was my boy from Columbus, Georgia, and everybody getting together, and I couldn't understand a word half the people were saying. I didn't understand the dress. I didn't understand the attitudes. And I tell people this all the time. People think going to HBCU is about the elimination of diversity. That was the place I learned what diversity was.
Message.
My homeboys wearing, it's some of the toughest people I knew. They showing up at that time with lime green shorts and riding skateboards and stuff like that. And I had other partners that literally seemed like they were straight off the farm somewhere in rural Georgia. I had no experience with that. I had no respect for that. But after a few months, everybody building, you become this melting pot. And then when I went back to Chicago, when I went back to the crib, all of a sudden my slang is a little different. All of a sudden my walk is a little different. All of a sudden the way I carry myself is a little different. And I had my homeboys coming up to me like, bro, you changed. And like it was a bad thing. And it was a great thing because you learn how to maneuver. You learn more about yourself, your self-esteem. And like I said, we came up, this was 1987, what I call kind of the birth of the golden age of hip hop. For us, it was knowledge of self, right? I'll never forget, when I heard it takes a nation of millions to hold us back. Literally, the record, I tell people all the time, there's two things changed my life. It was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, and it was listening to Black Steel and Hour of Chaos. And, it wasn't about creating militancy. It wasn't about learning more of what I didn't know. It was about the ability to internalize this stuff. I literally saw, and my mother used to say this all the time growing up, and this gets into, going past my formative years. You only learn three ways. You learn through your individual observation, you learn through your personal experience, but more importantly, you learn through storytelling. The first two, you're limited by the physics of where you are, right? The importance of this podcast, the importance of the type of people you guys are, is you have the third eye, as we used to call it, which is a storyteller. I might not be able to go to Cannes, but if you go and you tell me what it's like through the three of your experiences, I could travel there mentally.
Message.
And so many of our people, right, are not stuck physically, they're stuck mentally. They don't travel a long distance, right? They don't dream enough. We let our dreams be dictated by the stories, but when we only limit ourselves to a few stories, by definition, our dreams become shackled. And so to sum it up, my childhood, to be frank, was not easy, but it wasn't tough either. But the one thing I thank God for every day is my dreams were unshackled. And so I give credit, man, to everybody in the neighborhood, to my mother, to my father, to everybody, because I can't be one of those dudes who comes on here and say, "Oh, I didn't have no role models, I had no support, I had to get it out of the mud." First of all, I don't believe half those dudes. Let's keep it a buck. But
Facts.
even for those people who say that, what's crazy is that I say, well, wait a minute, was your mind in the mud? Because you could be in the mud. And if you dream about a future, you could see that. Most of the people who made it out the mud, the common through line is they never knew they were supposed to be there in the first place. They expected more.
You gotta listen to him. You can learn something.
You gotta listen to him.
Yeah, that's it. And by the way, that getting back to the culture, and I can tell you the journey about why I feel so blessed to give back at this point. But I tell people, listen, if you go to the party every weekend, you'll never have a fun party in your life, right?
Woo.
And so you have to learn to sacrifice. What I do now, and I appreciate it all. That came after 40. Right.
That's
You
interesting.
gotta listen. I tell people this, and my sons, I have a 22-year-old and a 15-year-old. At the end of the day, I tell my sons all the time, what you do to find yourself in your teens places you in a position to be yourself in your 20s, places you in a position to teach somebody in your 30s, then places you to give back in your 40s and 50s. You can literally harvest that. But if you never get to 50, you're gonna have a hard time being a part of the culture. You're gonna have a hard time leaving a legacy. There's certain people that do. Martin Luther King died in his 30s,
Yeah.
right? But that's the exception. That's not the rule. So
Yeah.
if you plan on being one of those people that's remembered, if you plan on being legendary, then plan on being 50. And if you move in a way where you plan on being around 50, all that YOLO makes no sense.
Mm.
It makes no sense in the world, but you got to plan on it. If you plan on this show being the biggest show in the world, you're going to move differently than if you plan on having another guest next week.
Hold on.
See, you going crazy. You talking about you going crazy.
Oh, man.
You're not even.
I love it.
Like,
First of all, we gotta bring back the quote cards.
Here we got 10 quote cards right there.
Quotes already, like off the bat. We got to bring back the quote cards because Jesus, it's refreshing, Steve. It is. I just let me start it off by saying it is refreshing to sit here and be able to have a conversation with somebody of your intellect, man, because you don't really realize, like you said, what you know and what you don't know until you talk to somebody who actually knows something, right? Coming and you said something that really hit home, right? Like me and Jared, we come from that urban, real rough. We from the South Bronx. I'm from Forest Projects. Like we from that.
Yes,
you
sir.
understand?
Yeah, yes, sir.
But we always like, yeah, we here, but this ain't like we always knew. Like, yeah, we here, but this is not like we in the mud. But this ain't where we going. We always knew it was going to be a way out. It was just a means for the moment. So when you said that, like mentally, it made me really think about my journey and Cuzzo's journey. But one of them, like for me, you said like, getting out, meeting people of diversity, learning what diversity truly is, right? Learning what I call it, being like a worldly person, a person that travels, like being a worldly person, right? Learning what diversity truly is and talking to people that have higher intellect than you, that have more experience than you, it truly gets you to understand sometimes like how ignorant you're really being, right? When we're growing up and we're doing these urban things, product of the
that's right. Yeah.
Everybody's doing it, so you don't know no better, right? You think this is the way you should act until you meet somebody to sit you down and kind of bring things to light and be like, nah, brother, let me talk to you. Like, what are we really doing here?
Absolutely. And what I love about the way you broke it down, I mean, again, just speaking in physics terms, one of the hardest things in engineering is to build a bridge.
Right.
So the point isn't going to these places, meeting new people and elevating. The point is elevating and building that path behind you. But
Right.
it comes from appreciating both sides, right? If
Right.
you built the bridge and it's a one-way bridge, it's not going to be a strong bridge. You got to build it so it goes back and forth. And that's appreciating it. So to your point, I tell people all the time, ignorance is different than stupidity, right? And
Mm.
so to
Mhm.
your point, we didn't know.
Yeah.
Literally, I didn't know. It's things I find out every day. You ever walk into a spot with somebody who really knows something, and all of a sudden you see it different because they just put something in your ear? It
Yeah.
isn't because you're dumb. It's because you just didn't know. And I tell people all the time, once people bring it to you with love and aspiration, and they're not talking down to you, that's the legacy it builds. Then you're going to take that information and pass it on. And one of the things I appreciate about you guys in the quote card, but the truth of the matter is, and again, I'm not being humble, I'm just telling the truth. There's nothing I said to you in the first few minutes of this podcast that somebody didn't say to me. There's not one original word. Like, but that's all right. That's cool, because I tell people it's not about the word, it's about the practice and the execution.
Execution. Yeah.
Right? A lot of people, trust me, I tell people this all the time. It's a lot of people who try to understand, even the music industry, and we'll get to all that. People think they have understanding, but understanding without application is foolhardy. Everybody will tell you, how many experts people tell you about the music business, they come on and say this stuff, but we still seeing the same behind the music over and over again. We got people who claim they're the biggest gangsters on earth, right? They come from the South Bronx, the South Side, East LA, West Atlanta. We're Pablo Escobars on wax. But yet nobody has a good music contract. Now let me ask you, if you were that kind of gangster, where nobody would cross you, nobody would rip off your consignment, you in a brick come up missing, you kill the whole family, but yet Columbia Records screwed you on your royalties. We supposed to believe that. And so that
was real.
That goes back to the dream of, we had these nightmares that we made dreams. So we'll put Scarface on our wall, not because it's a good movie. We put it on there because it's aspiration, and then wonder why we're not respected in the community. And that's why when you asked about my formative years, I was glad to come up on KRS and BDP. Every time I see D Nice, I think about Criminal Minded, By Any Means Necessary. These are things that changed my life. When literally you're talking about being 16 in the dorm room and literally listening to, in about 4 seconds, a teacher will begin to speak and to repeat, I think very deeply. And when my man said, let us begin, what, where, why, when, it'll all be explained like instructions to a game, right? When you think about that intro and think about, I'm making this up, pick the biggest record right now, and I won't single out the artist, but just a cappella, just think about the direction mentally we getting our people to dream. And I'm not talking about kids. I tell people all the time, of course I worry about the youth, but I'm scared of what the adults listening to.
Mhm.
Because when I was 16, I wanted to be Chuck D. I literally wanted to be KRS-One. And that was before he came out, You Must Learn. Think about if a record was released today saying You Must Learn. People say that's corny.
One get
But
one
then
set,
they'll
one
say-
stream.
Yeah, but here's what's interesting. They'll say with a straight face, yo, Steve, how can I get to be you? That's like going to a bodybuilder and saying, with some McDonald's sticking out your mouth, you got a strawberry shake, and say, man, I want to be you, but you're feeding yourself this garbage. How you gonna be me when I'm telling you what I grew up on was Alex Haley, when I grew up on James Baldwin, when I grew up on all these things, which allowed me to see the Black exploitation, which allowed me to see the comedy, which allowed me to experience that in context. If you got a I'll call it well-plated meal, you got your protein, you got your starch, you got your vegetables, the whole nine, then when peach cobbler come around and it's with a lot of sugar, it's in context. So it wasn't as if we didn't consume all that stuff. Again, I came up on the era of Two Live Crew and the sticker and the whole nine. Like that, we literally started that trend. Like when I was at the AUC, we started the Freaknik. But I tell people all the time, we started in the context of knowledge itself.
No, it's
If you take either one of those things, if you take the seriousness without the fun, well, that's out of context. That's like a meal without a dessert. You go to a great restaurant, you go on a great vacation, you don't have any dessert, you don't have any drinks, probably it's not that fun, right? On the flip side, if I took y'all on vacation right now and said, oh, we're going to all you can eat place, meals on me, take care of it. The only thing you consume is Hennessy and dessert. I don't think you're going to last a whole week.
We've done it. We've
I
done it.
just gotta say, Steve,
Me and Chatty have done it.
I need to hang with y'all.
Listen, you talking to the gym guy right here, and most of the times I don't eat dessert. I ain't gonna lie, like dessert come across the table, I'm like, come on, I can't eat that. Like, look,
you know what? You know what I love though? This 100%, because you have to ask yourself, why are you the gym god?
Yeah.
Because again, you got an aspiration for yourself and how you want your physical to show up.
Yeah.
And what is discipline? Discipline is short root word for what? Disciple. So your faith in the ability to be that gym guy gives you the discipline to make that sacrifice. You're not a better, but we all children of God. You're not better than anybody on this call, but you want something different.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I guess my thing is for everybody, again, going back to me, you have to want this. It doesn't mean you're going to get the title, doesn't mean you're going to get the job or the money. But, one thing about my childhood is I wanted this. My parents wanted this for me. The gangbangers wanted this for me because they wanted me to be happy. And so therefore, when I made some moves to do that, when I pushed away the metaphorical dessert, I didn't have people pushing it back because they knew what it was. Yeah. Just by you telling me you're the gym guy, you come over to the house and we kick it. I might offer the other two hosts of this thing some dessert, but out of respect for you and your dream, I ain't gonna put that pie in front of you.
That's real.
I appreciate it. You remember what you bringing me back to old school Wu-Tang, school Wu-Tang. Because remember old school Wu-Tang, man, with the RZA and them, they always used to talk about inspect the deck, knowledge yourself. You know what I mean? They was on it heavy back in the day. Like I think for me, culturally, talking about it and just hearing it, it was the Wu. I think nobody else was really the Wu was just man.
Listen, but you know what's so lovely about that, and we'll get to career stuff. But going back to painting the picture for you,
right?
Remember that came up out of the love they had for Run Shaw and all of the martial arts films.
Right.
Coming home after school, studying culture, bringing that even something called the Wu. The fact they would come together and form. That type of thing. So I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to seek out different pieces of information, right? Some of it's going to be for you, some of it's not. But going back to what you said about building that bridge, right? They built the bridge between that culture, right? Other Kung Fu flicks and hip hop culture.
They definitely did.
And they did, right? And I mean, even down to the sound effects, Shaolin, right? Like, think about it.
Everything.
But they weren't afraid to step outside. And so that would be my first sort of lesson to everybody is don't be confined to where you were. How many times had the RZA been to China before he created that? None.
Right.
But that media, that window allowed him to incorporate some of that culture, right? That discipline, the formation of a team, the whole nine, the 5 deadly venoms. If you think about Raekwon the chef, like all of these things, right? That's why I tell people in hip hop and the culture, see, we want to act like culture is separate from advancement. The advancement is our culture. Those brothers may not have had the degrees, but tell me they weren't worldly. Tell me they weren't cultured in terms of what they were doing. And by the way, going back to, without mentioning names, but look at the individuals who were part of the Wu and look at where they are 30 years later. They're all doing various things successful. That comes back to they developed the mental gym habits, if you will, to do that. They didn't just start having dreams and aspirations. I can mention Meth. When you look at the accomplishments of that brother, and I don't know him personally, but he's somebody I definitely admire. When you look at these accomplishments and you go back to the through line, he was always that guy.
Yeah.
Right. He was always Ice Cube always has been that way. Todd LL has always been that way. And going back to those are aspirations, those are cultures that we have to reinforce that traveling ability. I love y'all from the Bronx and I love that y'all rep that and appreciate it. My dream is Y'all go keep that, go around, visit mentally as well as physically other cultures, other people, and then put it all together.
That's a fact.
Put it together because that's what makes you special. I tell you all the time, being from the hood, we celebrate the worst of it. The best of it is if you can survive there, you know you can maneuver anywhere else.
That's
So why wouldn't you go somewhere else?
I think that's what helped us be us, though. To be honest with you, right? Like, cuz I was a Marine. I know me, Mama Love had me in camp. I was going to Canada at 10 years old.
Yeah.
Races, like we had stuff. So that brought my mindset when I came back to the neighborhood. It's like, yo, there's so much stuff out of it. You know, there's a roller coaster over there in Canada that does this and that, and you know this, and it just changed your whole perspective about everything. Like you said, it just shapes you who you are. Like, so everything you're saying is right. That's why we created the show, to say more than the title, and you know, show that we have more, just more than that. I've been in places, we've all been in places where it's like, yo, man, I can do so much more. I know this because of my experience. I know I can excel at this, but I won't even get the shot because of this.
There you go. And what's beautiful about it is, man, we can't control where we're going to end up, right? That's a factor of society. It's a factor of luck. It's a factor of a lot of things. We can't control the process. And so I tell you all the time, I love the more than the title, because to me, that signals not only do you respect the process, for me, I'm respecting your process. You know, again, Oprah started out as the host of AM Chicago, right? Tyler Perry started out doing plays, right, on the Chitlin circuit. So they can, and by the way, there are other Tyler Perrys, there are other Oprahs who don't get that chance. But if we start respecting, again, the process and not the outcomes, then we take the power back. Because if we only respect the outcome, right, and we don't have control over it, of course, somebody outside our culture could pick and choose, okay, who's got this, who's not, who are the role models, who are not. You know, again, we quoted some of the hip hop stuff we talked about. Again, empirically, those aren't diamond albums. That isn't streaming more than current stuff.
Right.
But can you say it's better?
Yeah.
No, you're right. So yeah,
it's life changing.
Yeah.
No, it is. And honestly, like, you've been a leader throughout your whole, I don't know if you like, but I started reading on you when I found out you're going to be on the show. So you've really taken on a lot of leadership roles throughout your entire lifestyle. Like, especially now, is like in your career, you've shaped a lot of cultural moments, been behind the scenes and big power moves and plays. Like, what was that like? What is that experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, to give full credit, I've been, I call it the 12th man on some championship teams. So I'll be very clear, right? I'm the guy next to the guy, which is fine. You know, not to use a sports term, Robert Horry has more rings than Michael Jordan, right? So I'm cool being Robert Horry, right? So when you say what it's like, you know, there's, I think, three parts of it. The practical perspective is it's a lot of pressure, right? It just is a lot of pressure. And pressure for me, it honestly creates paranoia, which creates preparation. And sometimes that could get to be a lot, you know, just to be candid, because I'm perpetually worried about something. However, my thing is like, I'm gonna make sure we dot the I's and cross the T's, right? You know, I had the pleasure of working on the Coachella performance with Beyonce and the team, and that was fantastic. And I'll tell you, in addition to a ton of things that it brought me, I'll never forget the CEO of Golden Voice, which is the parent company of Coachella. About halfway through the performance, and Paul's a great guy. He comes up to me. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, think people going crazy, right, on the West Coast. He literally grabs me and says, "This is incredible. I can't believe she's doing this." And it's her first show back because we had taken a hiatus for a while because she was pregnant with the twins. I can't believe this. How did you guys do this? And what was interesting about that, and again, he had all the best intentions in the world. I thought about what he said, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't the first show back. This is the first show you've seen. So going back to one of the biggest lessons I tell people all the time, whenever you see the difference between the best and sort of, you know, good, right? It's not necessarily what happens that day, it's everything before that. It's all the rehearsals, it's all the preparation, it's practicing what could go wrong, right? I've seen other performances at Coachella and the mic cut off or somebody, does this, and it's a big thing. Those things, without mentioning too much, those things have happened to Beyonce. They happen at the Super Bowl. They happen all the time. The difference is when you rehearse the mistakes, right? So, for example, we're doing this podcast, if I were running this, right, we would go through drills. What happens if bandwidth gets cut off and you get cut off midstream? Who's going to be the one to restart this and make sure the other three have the link? Right. Okay. What happens if Steve Mike goes out and suddenly, we need to win? So these things, once you practice over and over again, when they happen, you don't, as a consumer, you might not even notice. And then you say, oh my God, I can't believe Steve and the team and Beyonce, they're perfect. They do this, and that. No, we're not perfect. No, we're not better than you. In fact, we're probably more paranoid than you because we're like, you know what, something gonna go wrong. So we're gonna drill that over and over and over again. And by the time you see it publicly, oh, then we're on point because it's the 10th time. Imagine if we did this interview right now and we recorded it just for ourselves 9 times. And then we said the public gonna come in 10th time. Oh, our timing will be on point, our information will be on point, the whole 9. And people will say, I'll never do a podcast. I can't get like them. And this is the biggest lesson I learned from you. I said it's going to be 3 parts. The first, like I said, is that preparation. The second piece is you can't be scared to fail. There are so many people that I see, they miss the big moment because they don't want to be in that moment. Because they say that moment, oh my God, I'm not stepping in front of all these people. What if I don't know what to do? I can't have these young brothers and sisters thinking badly about me. I won't do the podcast because, I got to get the questions. I got to do this. I got to do that. And they miss the moment, and by the way, the gift is, and this is the last thing, which is repetition. The more you're involved with big events, the more it's not the event is big and I'm there. How about we make it big? Method. The day, and again, that's not bragging. That's coming from a lot of failure, right? But by the time I worked with Beyonce in the Super Bowl, remember I was head of business development for the NFL before that, right? So I'm going home to do this stuff. Other people are just not seeing it. And so, when we did that Super Bowl 50, remember Coldplay was the Super Bowl halftime act. Yeah. B was a special guest. But what did she do with that moment? She made that moment cool. Right now, people talk about the halftime show differently. She was the first Black woman to do Coachella, right? So now Coachella is different. Okay, when we went on stadium tour, now even that phrase stadium tour, that was some Jay kind of coined. Most people didn't even think about the difference between stadium and arenas and the whole nine. He was doing, but he was saying, going back to Dream, if you go back and look at, Jay was saying stadium status when he was on tour with Kanye at Madison Square Garden, which is not a stadium, right? But Jay was setting it up in the universe for B to be at MetLife Stadium. And now when I look at Kendrick and SZA really at MetLife Stadium, I'm saying now it's Black men and women doing stadium shows. But before B and J did On the Run 10 years ago, that was absurd. Method. And so those are the 3 things I would tell you about these moments. And in your life, don't think about how can I, again, get to that moment? How can I prepare? How can I practice? How can I be a little paranoid? But more importantly, make this your moment. Don't wait for this podcast to be distributed by NBC before you step up. Step up and then let NBC come back.
Yo, you Steve, the gems?
No.
A lot of game here. Like, yo, I love it. No. We got a lot of comments on Instagram. Please come to YouTube. We tell you this every episode.
Every episode.
They're coming on YouTube, huh?
Well, you know what it is, Steve.
Hopefully that answers your question. Though. I just want to make sure.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, I have plenty more to come.
We stream over 5 different channels. So that's what it is.
Yes,
we on Instagram, we on LinkedIn, we on YouTube all at the same time. So like anybody, right? Different people get their content different ways. Some people love Instagram, some people love YouTube. So that's all it is. If a person is on Instagram watching, they gonna comment right on Instagram.
And by the way, it's like Verzuz. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I wanna say this though.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You know, again, just relating it to something that we do on a regular basis. Me and my cousin, we just put up a post the other day. We had did 100 episodes last year alone. There's a
Wow.
statistic. There's a statistic saying that most podcasts most startup podcasts don't go past, I think, 8 episodes. Cuzzo, is it 8?
So
8 episodes, right? From the inception to when the podcast is ended. And last year alone, we did 100. And then the other day, we turned around and we was like, oh, it's already June, and we did 50. So in 18 months, we did 150
Yes, sir.
episodes, right? So when you say
Love
like,
to work, bro.
when you say
Love
like
to work.
practice, right? When you say like practice,
No,
and that's just the episodes like we're doing like this. This has nothing to do with the in-persons that we do, because we show up and we host events and we do other events. That's just the shows that we've done. We've done 150 in 18 months. And I will say to you, it's exactly what you said, right? We have run into every problem that you can think of. I'm talking Wi-Fi goes down, mics go down,
you got the charger.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
but a testament to what you said, right? Us being able to do it so much. Now, when something goes down, we troubleshoot it so fast that at first we were panicking. I'm telling you,
By the way, it goes back to
Yeah.
we have to normalize
Yeah.
mistakes, man, and we
Yeah.
have to have empathy. You know, like I tell people all the time, we got to have empathy, but empathy comes through experience. So, you know, I can sit here now, you know what I mean, at 54 years old and kind of give y'all some of this stuff as I was going through it. You know, let me be super clear. It wasn't like that. But the analogy I give people all the time, I'm on the board of a company that owns a lot of amusement parks. So I probably go more than the average person. When you're waiting in line to get on the roller coaster, no matter how big and scary it is, you see two things. You see people getting on the train and they're very nervous, right? They leave. And I mean, you could tell when they go around and that go up that first hill and it goes up a little slow. I don't care how tough they think they are. You're on some of the world's biggest coasters. You could see the doubt because we have the cameras, so we could see. You see the doubt in their faces, right? Okay, literally not 2 minutes later, when that train comes back around and the other people are about to get on, what do most of the people say to the people riding the train? How was the ride?
How was it?
Very
Yeah,
few people say, oh, this was terrible. Don't get on it. What do they say? Oh, this nothing. This is cool. Again, I got the actual tape. I'm like, this person was literally about to like cry and had their eyes closed most of the ride, right? Okay. But when they come back, they get off of it. Everybody tough. They get off roller coaster. Yo, Jerry, bro, you should have been on there. Like, man, I was da 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 da. And again, it's not till they go by the booth and they see the picture on the t-shirt and it's got them looking a little shook that they like, they just caught me at a bad moment, right? The metaphor is that's life. Okay.
Right.
You going through a coaster, especially as you starting off as young people, you going up that hill. That's when the self-doubt gonna come in. Why am I doing this? Do I even need to be in school? The hate gonna come in your mind. It's gonna be external. Some of it gonna be internal. Yo, why are we doing this podcast? Like, why are we even going through this? Right? That's normal. Then you're gonna go down that hill faster than you know. It's gonna be twists, turns, loop to loops. You're gonna go upside down. You're gonna be like, what the? And sometimes you're going so fast you can't even think, right? But then when it slow down at the end, you know how it breaks right before you go to the station, everybody cheer and good. That's your life. When you hit that back end of your life, you gonna cheer. And you gonna forget the times you were scared. You gonna forget the doubt. And you're gonna be like, man, you know what was the most fun on this ride? What? The twists and turns.
Yeah.
It wasn't the smooth stuff. It was a twist and turn. Why? Because you're gonna look back on some of those mistakes, and that's what's gonna bring y'all together. The laughter, like, oh, I can't believe we did that. Because again, we train ourselves to remove adversity from our life. I'm gonna tell you, as somebody who's lived a little longer, the adversity isn't fun, but it's what brings y'all together.
Message.
The best, if you go to an amusement park, the scariest rides, the ride nobody, is comfortable with, that's the stuff you remember. Who remembers the merry-go-round? Right? Every amusement park got one. Who remembers that? Right? I'm just saying.
Right.
Yeah, man, in life, the scariest stuff is the stuff that basically we remember. And so again, my message to all y'all is, first of all, I can't tell you how it's going to end up, but I can absolutely tell you where it's going to end up. If y'all keep working like you're doing, you're going to be successful, because the difference between the people who make it and the people that don't, when I say make it, I'm not talking about for a minute. I'm talking about who really make a living doing what you guys do. Is not the show you see, it's everything y'all doing beforehand, including the perseverance of just keep doing it.
Message.
That's real. Like,
That's
and
so
by the way, one of y'all, while we talk about the other two, I'll give you this to go look at. If you type in to Google, and anybody listening to my voice, just do it. Type in 3 words, actually 4. If you type in NY Times, the New York Times for 1 word, you type in Ashanti and Beyonce, just type in those 3 words. The article you're going to get, and you guys can verify, I believe in fact checking, you're going to get an article that is from the music reviewer in the New York Times before Dangerously in Love, her first solo album, came out. And the
2003.
headline, 2003. And you got the headline up?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, read what the headline says.
Wait, shit, I need a subscription. It just took me out. Hold on. It says the music, the solo Beyonce. She's no Ashanti.
Bam.
Wow.
Think about what that is.
Crazy.
2003. So we're not talking about eons ago. We're talking about 13 years ago. Okay. I took over Parkwood in 2015. So we're talking about a situation where you literally had 12-year gap. By the way, she was killing it before I got there. Let me be super clear, right? Okay. So I can't take credit for that. But what I'm saying is that this is after Destiny's Child. This is after the movies. This is when she was iconic. That the New York Times, which, you know, people could say what they want to about the news. Let's just say at that particular time, this is a flagship newspaper. This isn't, you know, I won't mention other publications. This isn't a fly-by-night thing. And they literally put in there, hey, she's no Ashanti. And no disrespect to Ashanti, right? But instead of being hurt, instead of her saying, you know what, dang, I cannot believe this. I'm trying to go solo, and they telling me I'm not even as good as Murder Inc. And look at where she's gone after that. And I'm not saying relative to Ashanti, I'm saying relative to everybody on earth. So when I tell you, if the New York Times disrespected her like that with a straight face, and she still persevered to be the biggest artist on the planet, I don't want to hear that just because your homeboy told you don't do this podcast, y'all stop.
That's facts.
That's
You know, we had Matthew on. We had Dr. Matthew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely,
We had
man.
Dr. Matthew.
And
No,
salute to him, because he gave her that
there we go.
person. That's what I.
what
And by the way, that goes back to, again, one person's philosophy, not the whole world. Nobody does it alone, in my opinion.
there we
When
go.
you look at the greats, they've been great because it's been great, not in just their DNA, in their household, in the way they grew up. You know, again, that man can speak for himself. However, it's a known fact. He was successful before the girls. Miss Tina was successful before the girls.
Yep.
So going back to their dream wasn't, I'm going to buy my mama a house. That's a great dream. I love that dream, right? But their dream was more than that. So again, if you want to be the best ever, nobody's ever been the best ever that told me, I just dreamed about being okay. Like, who said that? If you go back and ask Oprah, what did she dream about? Not what has she had in her mind. She was planning on being this before this. That she may say, how did it get here? Oh, it was luck. I didn't realize the timing. Sometimes it happens a little slower. Sometimes it happens a little faster. Oh man, blah, 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 blah. But that dream is the common denominator. If you want to be average, I guarantee you will be that way. But I guarantee this, you'll have no chance, no chance of being that person, of making those moments, if you don't put yourself in that position before that position.
Message.
And that's exactly what the crazy shit. Before we get into some questions,
Yeah.
He said the crazy shit. Me and Cuzzo, before Nadesh came on, right? We sat there stuck. First of all, he showed up 15 minutes early. 15 minutes early and said, yo, I've been waiting all day for this. So imagine us. This is one of our biggest episodes today. He comes on. He's respectful. He's 15 minutes early. We end up just chopping it up. But one thing he said to me as a parent, like I could just feel it. He was like, yo, if Beyonce wanted to be a nurse, I would have brought a hospital. Cuzzo fell out his chair.
Come on. Come on.
That
Come
mindset.
on, man. That mindset. And that's what I say. Everybody want to be a G. Everybody want to be a tough guy until these tough moments show up. Right. And so what, again, Matthew, trust me, it's only a couple people in the world, including Matthew, that did my job. And I would tell you with a straight face, obviously Matthew did it better than me because I took a train that was already moving and we got a little faster. He built the train, right? So again, I'm not telling you what I think, I'm telling you what I know. And there's respect from one brother to another. People do not understand that it's the mindset that people don't replicate. People study what Matthew was able to do with those girls, and they might copy the dresses Miss Tina sold, and they copy the songs, and they do all this, but they don't copy the feeling. So when people say, yo, you about that life, he's still about that life. Right now, today, he is ready to get medieval about his daughters. And I'll tell you guys this, get medieval about yourself. It's a Matthew inside of you who, when you doubt it, gonna be like, you know what, I need you to metaphorically run in these hills. I need you not to take no stuff. It's a Matthew in you that's not going to let nobody talk crazy to you, including yourself.
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo. He didn't do it. He had the YouTube loves it. I got to give you one.
Yeah. No, but again, man, and I'm sorry, because we're not even talking about me.
I love the
but I would just say, but again, because I've seen the rewards, man. I mean, just to be honest, I wouldn't be here to be able to talk to you guys if I didn't have a Matthew, and what, troubles me, and like I said, we'll get back to me, it's just about society as a whole, is that everybody's focusing in on the me's of the world, meaning Steve Pamon's, not understanding what made us. And so there's people who are destroying the soil, and we sitting around trying to pick the fruit and not understanding this might be our last meal. You know what I'm saying? So we got to really get back to how do we create an environment where you guys are encouraged to try and fail, where you're learning these things? How can we create an environment that's supportive and challenging, right? Because we sometimes think that, those two things are opposed. Again, I could tell you very verbatim, if you think Matthew was always liked by his daughter and, her peers in the group, that's crazy. But he always going to be loved and respected. And we got to separate the two. Like is something that goes up and down. Love, to your point, is something where, again, I go back to, I love the fact that you in the gym, like we used to say, getting brolic mentally, right? At the end of the day, you can't tell me that that's not painful going through those reps, but you're going through that short-term pain to get that long-term gain. And right now, we've minimized and we've, I don't want to use bad language, but let's just say we've taken the pain away as something that we seek. And I tell people all the time, our people are the toughest, strongest people on the planet. So how did we get so scary? And scary to me isn't the person that puts the gun down. Scary is the person that need one in the first place. And I don't say that just from a physical perspective, just metaphorically. If you got to go through and keep talking about what you're doing, keep making it about you, in my opinion, that's not a man. That's not what you're doing. You got to build a community. We got to really be, Matthew, people could say what they want to about him, but if somebody respects him, Matthew built a legacy.
That's a fact.
I want to build a legacy. You all want to build a legacy. So we got to start like watching the game film, like in sports. Let's dissect. Okay, how did he do it? He may not have done this perfect, may not have done that perfect. Okay, we're going to improve on that, but we're going to keep the good. And we got to build. And building is what we need to do. Right now, they're programming us to destroy. People want me to come on and say, oh, yeah, I used to manage Beyonce's career. So did Matthew. Okay, why am I better than him, or why is he better than me? Those are the two. When people ask me that question, I could tell you, those are people that don't want to see me, him, or her succeed.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I got baby on that one. That's them other platforms.
Yeah, man, come on. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, at the end of the day, we are human beings. You might not like what everybody does in the industry, but you can't tell me you love this industry and you don't study these people and want to build off their knowledge.
And how badly do you want to get the knowledge? I tell everybody, we have a saying here, you got to choose to be him or her. We say this shit every episode, Steve. You got to choose to be him or her. But most people, and we've said it a few times on the show, most people don't know, it took 3 years to get Matthew on the show.
Come on.
3 years. You know, it took 50 touches and 50 no's to get one yes for the 51st.
Come on. And by the way, when you broadcast that episode, where was the requirement that you had to say it took that long and how many no's?
There was none.
I tell people all the time, go look on my LinkedIn right now
None.
and tell me you can find a section that describes the jobs I didn't get and the schools I didn't get into.
Ooh.
Right? There's no section for that. So at the end of the day, again, going back to we're glorifying perfection over progress, not understanding that that choice of perfection is why you don't get a Coachella from all these artists, because they're afraid to make mistakes. They're afraid to try something new. And again, it goes back to like riding a roller coaster. The first time, if we went to Great Adventure, we ride the roller coaster first time, everybody gonna be a little nervous. If I tell y'all we're gonna do it 10 times, after about the third time, you're not even gonna feel the drop anymore. The physics and gravity didn't change. The speed of the coaster didn't change. Your body didn't change. Your mind did. And that's the biggest thing I tell people all the time is put yourself in a position where you're going through these things before the heat really comes, and then you're going to look cool.
Right.
I'm
crazy.
Like
go to the bathroom. He's going crazy. I don't want to miss a gym. Hold on.
You on fire, God, Nash.
Okay, because I want to talk about, I guess because we're at the part of like, let's talk about your career, like as a powerful Black executive in all these kind of rooms. What kind of internal work did you have to do, stay grounded, be able to stay vocal in those spaces?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, right? One is education, and so I'm a big believer in formal education. That doesn't mean everybody has to have it, but it's one of those things where I tell you all the time, you rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Didn't I just say? I just said that before we started the episode.
Literally just said that.
Yeah. Literally just
you know
said
what? Listen, that's why I love you. Like I said, I thought it was just those earrings. You know what I mean? So I didn't realize we was on the same wavelength. But this is the key, and I say this all the time: is one, in those rooms, like anything, you have a support system. Sometimes I'm the only person that looks like me, but I try not to be in rooms where I'm the only person that feels like me. Right? Those methods. And so, you get that. And then the other thing is that going back to mistakes, one of the biggest pieces of career advice that honestly somebody gave me, and I never really hear people talk about, is save your money. Let me tell you why. Okay. This person told me, if you work for 5 years and you save 25% of your salary, that 5 year brings you a 5th year that's free.
Right.
You live by definition. So somebody gives you a job, $100,000 a year. You live on $75,000, right? After 4 years, going into your 5th year, that $100,000 that you make will be on top of the $100,000 you have saved in the bank. Okay. I'm 54. I graduated college at 21. All right. At the end of the day, or at 20, actually. So now you're talking about 34 years, right? Once you actually accumulate, we'll just do the math, right? Now you're talking about having compounded interest, 7 years worth of salary, right? And that's without stock, that's without any of the other blessings that I've been given. So again, risk is correlated with return. When you are on the job and you're afraid to take risks because you need the job, how much of return you really gonna get? So now I can speak my mind, because if I get relieved of my position or if they want somebody better, God bless. I get back my time, to be candid, right? Because we playing with house money. But what you'll find, and this is the craziest thing, it's like anything in life. When you don't need something, you'll be shocked at how much that something wants you. Method. If you walk into the spot and you walk into a job and you can speak your mind. Now, I tell people this all the time. Speaking your truth in your mind does not mean rude. That does not mean that you're denigrating anybody. That you should always come with love and great intentions, right? So this whole thing like, oh, I got it in the bank, now I'm going to be an asshole. That doesn't work. And especially if you got our complexion, that won't last you a second because they'll find a way to take that savings from you. And I see that in the business too as well. However, if you are now speaking your truth, not burdened by the economics, but burdened by commitment to the community, commitment to yourself, commitment to your family, but most importantly, commitment to the truth, you'll be shocked at how much further you can go. That allowed me, frankly, having that kind of money in reserve in the bank allowed me to go and work with Beyonce because I love B and she changed my life. I was a senior managing director at JPMorgan Chase. So I was on my way financially anyway, right? Okay, when you go join these boards, end of the day, they're paid board positions, but that's not the kind of money we're making full time. And it's a lot of work. So if you're doing this for the money, you'll never get money. And going back to what my man said about the Wu-Tang Clan, when you think about martial arts, if you ever read a book called The Tao Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee talks about water. And he talks about if we were thirsty and we were in the desert, right? And you wanted to get some water from me, I will pour it into your hand. Well, how would you hold your hand? You never hold your hand with a clenched fist like this. You can't hold any water, right? You also never hold your hand fully open. You can't hold any water. The key is holding it in the middle ground. So when you start talking about how are you a leader, the hardest thing in the world is to be both in it, but not of it. Right. And I can't tell you I'm perfect at that, but that's the key thing. Because when you're in it, oh, I'm the culture, I'm this, I'm that, and you start to believe the hype, you hold on to your personality or ego like this. When you start to think, oh, I don't care, man, I could care less. It is what it is. Well, then you holding on like this. And the answer is you got to be in between. I recognize the responsibility that I have. And, when the Lord has given me a number of things, so I'm not going to go in and blow it. If you call me up and say, yo, Steve, I want you to talk to a friend of mine, out of respect for you, I'm going to have respect for that conversation. At the same token, I'm not going to be so ridiculous about that I'm tense and I'm not myself. And at the same token, I'm never going to be like, I don't care, because I'll be lying. I care a lot about how I'm perceived, about what's going on. I care, but I don't care enough where I'm going to let you play me because I want to hold on to my position. Therefore, you are a leader, right? And that's the last thing. Everybody talks about wanting to be a leader. Everybody talks about wanting to be the boss. These are highly paid followers. How are you a leader if can't nobody point to who you hired?
Message.
Sorry. At the end of the day, the accomplishment I'm most proud of is not my income statement or my net worth. It's how many people can tell you, oh, I went to school because of Steve. How many people came up behind me in the industry and say, yo, Steve hired me and gave me a break. And I don't do that because I'm altruistic. It's because I wouldn't have been at Morehouse if that church didn't take me down there. I wouldn't have had any of these jobs if somebody didn't call up and say, this is my man. You should definitely look out for him. So what do I look like not doing the same?
Impact over metrics. We say it every week, every episode, y'all.
Yeah.
Impact over metrics.
Yeah. Well, the metrics haven't gotten us anywhere. I mean, again, we can speak very specifically about the entertainment business. We've had people have made a ton of money, way more than me, continue to go. We've had people have bigger titles, but we still struggling to get a consistent, positive Black experience reflected in television, in film, and in music. And when I say positive, I don't mean perfect. I mean, we got to have the ability to gross $100 million at the movies. We also got to have the ability to fail. That's power.
Fail, though.
That's power.
Like I give you the show.
Yeah,
I give you the show. We've been on the show for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Sponsorships, things like that. The things we had to endure to keep the lights on, business wise, podcast wise, all that stuff, right? Like it's very difficult, and most people I don't see stay in the course of what we had to do.
There you go. Well, Tyler Perry's a great example.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a brother you should look up, and like I said, I try not to mention names, but I think he's just a brother that I look up to, and everybody should. His name is Charles King, and Charles is the president and CEO of Macro. Absolutely, Charles is a brother, my brother, and somebody I look up to, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I remember when Charles King was Tyler Perry's agent, This is when Tyler Perry had a deal with a company called Artisan. That was before Lionsgate. So I say that to say, when Tyler Perry was doing those plays and going around that circuit, it wasn't just people outside our culture. People in the culture looked down on that, wouldn't support that, would not sponsor that, would said they would stay away from that with a 10-foot pole. Okay, fast forward 15 years later, now everybody want to get next to him. And so my advice is, don't believe those people that said that about Tyler 15 years ago, and don't believe the people saying things about Tyler now.
That's
right. Keep it in the middle. That's what I'm saying. Don't have your fist like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this. Also, don't be like, all right, my hands up, I don't care. Stay in the middle, but stay grounded on what you're doing and keep the audience in mind. And again, I can't tell y'all be, the next Oprah, but I can tell you'll be remembered and you'll be somebody, because the game, the real talk, the secret to the game is perseverance.
That's it.
I've never seen somebody successful that kept at it. You know what I mean? Or I should say quit beforehand. It's the people that keep at it that go. And these overnight successes are always 20, 30 years in the making. Always 20, 30 years in the making. The next Beyonce is 6 years old at PS14, literally right now, right? On grind. By the way, on grind mode at 6.
Yeah.
On grind mode. Right? Ain't nobody. And by the way, the person that's 40 that says it's too late is also wrong. Sam Jackson didn't start acting until 40. Okay. And Sam Jackson is, I believe, still the highest grossing actor of all time. Sam been in Jurassic Park, Sam been in Star Wars, Sam been in Pulp Fiction. Sam, keep a job. Okay. And so again, it goes back to, it's never too late, but you got to be committed, because Sam's still at 70 working. So that's still 30 years. Don't matter when you start, it matters how long you prepared to run the race.
The realest. And shout out, I'm still running. Shout out to Charles. We're gonna get Charles on the show, man. Me and Charles,
man,
times on LinkedIn. We're connected on LinkedIn. That's my guy.
Charles,
I think he did the clone Tyrone.
Yep,
he did.
Look, it would be no sinners, if it wasn't for Charles. I mean, I'm gonna just be straight up. But again, it goes back to, there's so many people who leave a legacy. Clarence Avon. I mean, I go down the line. Steve McKeever. I mean, again, what I'm here to tell y'all, this whole notion that it's only a few people out there doing what they need to do, struggling for the grind, that's a lie. Okay. There are supportive people. There's a network of people. There are good brothers who are out there chopping wood and for the culture. The problem is, we live in an attention-based economy, and the squeaky wheel of the people who don't know how to act get the oil. And so the reason why I love the platform you guys have is, there is no way for someone like a Charles King, someone like Larry Miller, who used to be the chairman of Jordan Brand. I mean, I go down the line. Nobody else is having them on. It's not like it's a long line of podcasts. You're like, oh man, such and such just had Charles on last week. Right? No, y'all got a platform and a lane to do this, because again, you're asking how I got to be where I am, man. Like I said, I used to run home and watch the Cosby Show and the whole nine. Hopefully it's some young person, like I said, whether they're in South Mississippi, South Side of Chicago, South LA, or the South Bronx, they're sitting there right now saying, you know what, man, these 4 people that's on the screen, somebody is me, and I can do that. And by the way, they might be the one. So your legacy might be, you know what, hold up, you actually is the inspiration for someone else. You know what I mean? Like I said, KRS didn't have, Big Daddy Kane didn't have the record sales of Jay-Z. But Jay told me directly to my face, it would be no Jay-Z if it wasn't for Kane.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, I think it's about trust also, right? Trust, right? And we talk about education, right? It's about trusting each other that we're going to do what we're going to say we're going to do. So back in the day, I know you say word is bond. Remember, word is bond, right? Your word is a bond, right? Yeah. So, with me and my cousin, he actually had started the podcast before I jumped on, just to give you some background on it. Mm-hmm. He was doing it for a company that he was working for. Because we do music, right? So I'm in a music studio, right? Mm-hmm. We were doing music together. I was doing music for a long time. This was before we met Nadej. But we didn't do music together because we couldn't come to a common understanding of the
Yes,
goal
sir.
of the business and the artistry. But when
Yes,
he
sir.
came to me with the podcast, he had a different mindset, right? And I
Mhm.
looked at him and I seen what he built and I seen the infrastructure. And I knew it wasn't where we needed it to be. And I didn't know
Yeah.
nothing about podcasts, but I seen the vision and I seen how dedicated, like the look in his eye was. So when he was like, yo, we can do this, I was like, all right. Like, like the roller coaster, though, I was like, look, I don't know
Yeah.
nothing about no fucking podcasting. I know business. I'll do business. You teach me podcasting. We'll teach each other and we'll meet in the middle. But like you said, right? Our journey, if you look at our first couple of episodes, we were like up and down, trying to find our rhythm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of the things that people say a lot about us when they meet us in person, especially, is like we always finish each other's sentences. Our cadence is like on point. Like we know when to time in and out. We know what each other's gonna say. So fast forward now, we're in California, and we meet Nadej about a couple months ago. And it was almost the same thing, right? She asked the right questions. It was her energy, and it just so happened. We 3,000 miles away. She's 3,000 miles away. What's the coincidence that we live a borough away from each other? One borough away. She could have been to any state in the United States, right?
Yeah.
So think about how like the world brings you opportunity, right? How opportunity knocks, right? And you got to be willing to open that door, right? And the same thing, right? When I met Nadej, she was like, okay, I want to do business. I'm like, yeah, we could do business. And then Cuzzo was like, yeah, but we should do more. And I looked at him like, there's the roller coaster. Like, oh, you sure?
Yeah.
But right, the roller coaster. But he was like, nah, let's like listen to me. But it's the same thing as what you're saying, right? It's not being like this all the time, right? And this was very powerful for me because me and my cousin talk about that in different aspects, especially about like a couple of our guests where sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'm like this, right? I'm like, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not having them on the show. I don't care. And that's it. Like, but listening to what you're saying about for the viewership, understand, manage it this way, do it that way, but you can't hold water with a closed fist. Gives me a different understanding because me and Cuzzo, that's one of the things we go back and forth on a lot. Sometimes Cuzzo be like, Cuzzo, you got to be like this, Cuzzo. Like, no.
But you know what? It goes back to what we were talking about experience.
I'm more Malcolm. I'm more Malcolm than Martin.
But here's the beautiful thing. That's what a team is for. If use basketball analogies, if we out here running with 5 point guards, everybody could be nice. Yeah. We ain't gonna win.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It up. You gotta have that. And the other thing is, it's like I use this example with my people all the time. It's GPS. Okay. GPS, if you came in, you say, look, I want to come over, I invite y'all to the house. Boom. As soon as you get in the car, you got to plug in where you want to go. That's up to you to decide. You don't decide where you are without any judgment. You should never judge where you are right now. More important thing is where you want to go. But the beautiful thing is, it'll tell you, okay, it'll take an hour. You're going to go this path. If you miss an exit, okay, the only thing that adjusts is time and distance. How many times have you ever had the navigation system holler at you or raise its voice? Or better yet, if you miss 3 or 4 exits, there's a little thing pop up and say, yo, do you still want to go to Steve's house? Man, maybe Steve ain't really even that cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, we go to the Nadej, her house is closer, it's easier, blah, blah, blah. Never once. So you have to ask yourself, how will we program a machine to plot through your driving thing through life? But you in your mind wouldn't have that same discipline. Right? Like, we got to really start thinking that way. Method. It's like where you guys are going. To your point, you might want to take a left. He might want to take a right. Okay, say he takes a right. Are you really that far off? As long as you keep in mind, where's that final destination we going? And that's why I tell people all the time, when you have that perspective, and by the way, it come with time, it come with failure. A lot of stuff I'm telling y'all now, just again, keep it a buck. I can tell y'all don't trip over this, crack in the road, because I done skipped my knee about 4 or 5 times. So I'm empathetic, and sometimes I tell you, like I tell other people, I'm there for you. You're gonna go skin your knee. I told you don't go across the street that way. Okay, as soon as the car start blowing the horn, now you will listen. That's also part of the growth. So we got to embrace it.
Yeah.
We got to laugh at it. Most of this stuff, man, particularly in the entertainment industry, I laugh because everybody treats this, use the TV show analogy, like it's the West Wing or Law and Order, like deadly serious, bro. Everything is super serious. Everything's a G, everybody doing stuff. Exactly. That's how y'all reacting right now. That's how I look at it. I'm like, bro, this is like The Office, bro. Like, real talk. If I could tape record some of the Zooms, like Verzuz, I give y'all just, again, Verzuz is my heart. You know what I mean? And we retooling, just in case anybody know, we retool, and it's gonna come back big, like bigger and better than ever. But one of the reasons why we had to retool is the same person, me, who worked on, like I said, Coachella and Super Bowl, the whole nine. I was part of a team that was the rocket scientists that brought you Mario versus Omarion with, Ray J and the rest of this stuff. That was a clown show. It was very entertaining. It was what the people wanted. But again, from my perspective, I was like, bro, I could do a million things better, And it was a part of me that night that was on this. And it was a part of me that night that was just like, oh, you brought the watermelon out. Oh, it is what it is. Another part, there was a part of me that was just like, I'm throwing the towel. You know that meme where, Drewski throw up the towel? Like, that was me on certain parts of the night. I'm like, okay, it's 50, people on stage. This dude got a watermelon. Like, it's over. I'm out of here. But
they gotta cut the shit.
Yeah, bro. Listen, cut it. I'm not even telling cut that. I'm like, cut me. I'm out the joint. Like, I'm out the joint. Like, what are you talking about? Like, bro, what are you talking about, man? Listen,
watermelon is still on
bro. Listen. Y'all watched it. Y'all know what it is, right? Okay, but again, I want to, again, we promised we're gonna keep it a buck. Okay, for every time we had something like that. And I'm like, okay, this I don't know about. I look back and I see Mary Mary and BB and CC Winans, right? Where Stevie Wonder came up to me at that performance and said, thank you, brother, for providing a platform where BB and CC could get together and perform, right?
Message.
This Sunday,
Wow.
we touching people, right? The same people that bought you 3-6 Mafia versus Bone Thugs and Harmony, are the same people that brought you Fred Hammond and Kirk Franklin. Okay. When I see Stephanie Mills, Shaka Khan, Gladys Knight, and Patti LaBelle on the same stage in Madison Square Garden, I think about my team, put them in the spotlight, brought that back. SWV and Escape, when they had their own television show with Mona and the whole nine.
Yeah.
I think about Verzuz. Every time I see Fat Joe, when he says, yesterday's price, same price, we did that. So again, it goes back to, I can't lie and say, like anything, I'm pleased all the time. I wouldn't be a human being. But it goes back to that perspective where you say to yourself, you know what? If I got to eat a little bit of this or, swallow some of this cod liver oil, because I know I'm literally trying to do something better, that's the perspective. And that's why you have a team and you say to yourself, look, and again, just keep it a buck. Is the point of Verzuz to have the best show every time? Or is the point of Verzuz to shed light on these legends, to raise the value of their catalog and change the lives of the people who changed my life?
Message.
If we doing those three things, and we've had discussions, me, Swizz, and Tim, and that's why I will always ride with Swizz and Tim, no matter what, because go back to love, not like. There may be any decision, any relationship where you say, oh, this one to say, I don't like this, but you know where their heart is, the love. And again, going back to, we have all these people in the culture that all talk about they for the culture. Where were they at when the Isley Brothers needed something? Where were they at with Earth, Wind, and Fire? Where are they at when these artists need funerals?
Yeah,
where are they at to change?
Curtis Blow, all of them. That's our brothers.
Yeah.
Who literally did that but Swizz and Tim?
Yeah.
Bring it back, Dipset and the Locks. Jadakiss life ain't been the same since then.
That's
right. That's just keeping it a bean.
That was his Michael Jackson moment. I ain't gonna hold you, but that's his Michael Jackson
but here's
Thriller moment
here's
right there.
Here's the fundamental truth. Michael Jackson was Michael Jackson before Motown 25.
Yeah.
Jada has always been that dude.
That's right.
So that's why I tell people all the time, we're not making people, we're putting them in positions where their talent could make it.
Sean.
You see what I'm saying? And by the way, going back to saving the money, we in a position to do what we want to do. If we had gone to the brands and said, who do you guys want to see? You think Kirk Franklin and Fred Hammond would be top of the line for Red Bull and Liquid Death? You know, and no offense to them, they want to see, you know, Lil fill in the blank versus Young fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is, again, it's room for all of that. But we grew up on culture overall. And we know if it wasn't for these legends, wasn't for Ron Isley, you would be no Mario. So you got to give them both shine. If it ain't for Mario, you wouldn't have a Jacquez. You wouldn't have none of these people.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so for us, you know, and I'll tell you, for me personally, what I loved about being a part of that, what I still do, is I love the smoke. I love the trepidation. I love the fact sometimes stuff goes wrong because it challenges me, it teaches me. But more importantly, what I love is I go to people from 8 years old to 80 years old, and they say, yo, where's the next verses? Right. And by the way, they got complaints. They'll be like, oh, y'all got to fix this and y'all got to do that. And what I love about it is they feel more of a part of it than me. I've been in the barbershops because nobody knows me. They know Swizz and Tim. I'm in the barbershop. It's people arguing up and down about who would win on this, who got the catalog on this. And I'm like, you know what? What I love about it is, and I told Swizzy this the other day, I always got to thank him and Tim, because the conversations about music have mostly been over the last couple of years, again, no judgment, just keeping it a fact, have been about the musicians' lives and what they do to each other.
Right.
Very rarely are people talking about the music. And I'm like, the thing that, you know, we have to get some things together, but the thing that I can't wait when, you know, this thing explodes back on the scene is we get to shift the conversation from who smacked who and who's on trial and who disrespected and all the things that's still a part of us, but the negative side of us. That isn't everything about us. And hip hop and R&B and rock would be nowhere without these legends. And it's about time for these legends to get their flowers.
Message. I gotta ask you something.
No, absolutely.
The one thing that I would have recommended, right? What I would love to see in the verses, because I watched every single verses. Right?
Barbershop talk.
I love the baby face.
That's what I love. That's what I love.
Let's talk that talk.
No,
I love them, right? I come up from the Dipset Locks era, all that stuff. That was my favorite one, on top of Babyface and Teddy Riley. The Earth, Wind and Fire and the Isley Brothers.
Yep.
That was one of those are my top three, right? But one thing I wish you guys would have had, and I'm gonna shoot this shot from half court.
No, come on.
Shoot this shot from half court. I wish I would have seen a road to the verses. I would have loved to seen how the artists
BTS
did all of that
BTS
stuff,
footage.
prepare it, how they strategize, make it a thing. Like,
BTS footage. Yeah.
So all I can say is I hear you and agree with you, and you know, you will see that. That's point blank. You know, give yourself credit. Give yourself credit. There you go. Give yourself credit. You will see that, because first of all, that exists, and it goes back to, again, the business. And I tell people all the time, you know, when you're not only dealing with artists, you're dealing with record labels, you're dealing with music clearances, you're dealing with editing, you're dealing with timing. There's a whole bunch of things that go into it. It's like anything. People think with the podcast, they just say, oh, man, y'all just click on StreamYard, man, come on here, do what it is. Oh, yeah, it says Steve, and no, okay, boom. I could do that. And so, again, it goes back to, and this is the one thing that I eliminate the barbershop talk with all the time. I tell people, just because you're a frequent flyer doesn't mean you can land the plane. And proximity, right? The one thing I love about the entertainment business is emotional and it's proximate. Meaning, by definition, who could tell who better, Dipset or the Lock? Both of them are dope. That's an emotional decision. That's not an analytical decision. But the other thing, particularly with verses, is because we pull in the audience, because it's the comments, you feel proximate to it. You feel like I was there. Man, I can't believe Steven did this. They should do this. And why did they sign this? By the way, it's no different than the Knicks versus the Pacers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody feels proximate, right? Everybody want to know is LeBron playing another year or not.
Yeah.
Everybody's proximate. So the gift of having that level of audience involvement is also the curse. And what, like I said, I would love to do at some point in time, it's probably not the time, but where you guys can do it is we start teaching people that, again, eating food is different from preparing. And like I said, we got a lot of people coming to the restaurant every day and they don't realize it's a dishwasher. They don't realize, it's a maitre d'. They don't realize all the things that go into it and how those things are the difference between you seeing it and not seeing it. But going back to your main point, behind the scenes, part of the reason why I love that and trust me, that's being executed against is because, again, the more you know about these artists and how hard they work and how this isn't 20 songs, just mugs are just up there freestyling and random, no, this is a lot of work.
This is my
And for many of these artists, I can give you guys this game. It's not about choosing the 20 songs, it's about which 20. Because it's an emotional decision for them. What you think are the 20 best songs from Jane Doe, the artist, might not be the 20 songs she think, right? And then going back to that rehearsal and pressure, you're picking your 20 best songs. If Jared, you would go against Nadej, you're picking your 20, she's picking her 20, right? Okay, the difference with Verzuz is it's placement and timing. If she play her best slow song first, and you want to come with the equivalent of, Wu-Tang Triumph, okay, that's out of sequence. That's out of pocket.
Yep.
And then there's another factor in it that we talk about all the time: momentum. You might have the best songs, but she get a couple, like her best 2 in a row, and then fire emojis start coming. And the thing is, in many of the verses, the artists can see on the big screen. They see the comments.
Yep.
It's not too many concerts. I don't care how many concerts you do. In a concert, everybody with you, right? If I do a concert to 3 of you guys, we set it up. Everybody's with you. You're not used to somebody being like, nah, that ain't it. When you standing in front and that stuff, and you playing something, you like, man, this is the joint. This is produced by Swizz Beatz, and man, this is an anthem in the streets. And then you realize Instagram bigger than the streets, right? I won't mention names. A lot of rappers tried to be Jadakiss, right? They tried to come and they tried to say, okay, I'm taking over this, and this. They don't realize the number one demographic on social media is female. Okay. All right. For Black people, it's even more exaggerated. So now all of a sudden you come in with, bro, I got the streets with me. I'm about to throw some bangers. And then another person is like, all right, I'm doing this joint with Pharrell and Ashanti on the hook. It's over. You're done. And how is it when you're in a business where people are used to affirmation, they're used to support, right? How are you going to react when you don't have that? And you've seen some people take a pivot, right? And regroup, and then they're off to the races. You've seen other people where you could literally see them fold. And then going back to risk, again, I don't want to say too much, but at the end of the day, there are people who I've seen go on these platforms and say, oh man, I'll do Verzuz tomorrow. I'll do Verzuz tomorrow. And, out of respect, I'm like, this person never called us about doing it. And it's because in front of your friends, in front of whoever, it's all good to be like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Male and female. Oh, can't nobody beat my catalog, this, and this. We all know if they really wanted to, they would have been done it. But they have in their mind, going back to risk taking, if I really stand in front of the edge and literally put my stuff out there, what if it ain't on hit like I think? They think that it'll be an L. But going back to facts, every single artist, this actually is a true story. You can look at every single artist, the catalog value has doubled. I'm not talking about just streams. I'm talking about if they were to sell their catalog, it's double.
Come on,
the price of that's double. And by the way, we don't get any participation in that. The price is double. When you look at the venues that many of the artists that have been on Verse, I would argue any artist over 40 that's been on Versus versus the artists that haven't, you could see the difference in their ticket sales because
Absolutely.
you're talking about it,
Let
right?
them know one time, Steve.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
He went crazy. Y'all went crazy.
No, bro, listen, but I give again credit to Swiss, Tim, Grady, Mode, Dima, Thomas, Gary, all the guys, man, because again, it's a whole village. I could tell you, but this is a village out of love. These people aren't getting respect. They're not saying, okay, let's get points on the tour. We want to get your podcast. We want to do all the rest of that stuff because we've been through that. And so we didn't want the people with, how could we, if we're telling other people get their hands out our pocket, now we go to the legends we respect and we want to have our hands in theirs. No. But at the same token, again, I do laugh because it's our culture that some of the people, the main ones, always talking about what they would do in the verses. It's like, okay, bro, like, show us. And then it's crickets.
Shit, but I want to get to the business aspect. I want to get into how you got into Versus, but just one question: what's your favorite? What was your favorite one that you was like, I can't wait to see this shit?
Oh, well, actually, it was one I didn't work on this, but it was my favorite one by far. But it wasn't one that I couldn't wait to see. But it was one 2 minutes after I was like, holy moly, this is what it is, and that's Beanie Man and Bounty Killer.
I knew he was going to say
Beanie Man.
I knew. I didn't want to say. I
Killer.
was going to say Beanie Man. I knew.
Listen, bro, that Beanie Man and Bounty Killer. Shout out to Monique Blake. Shout out to Swizz. Everybody who pushed that.
I knew you was going to say that. I knew you was going to say that.
Beanie Man and Bounty Killer aren't empirically, if you just look at the numbers, are not the biggest artists that we've had on the platform. Okay. However, there's nobody that looks at that. I don't care what culture you're from. I don't care your age. I don't care demographic. If you can't feel the energy coming through that phone on that Versus, and you don't say to yourself, these are masters at work, right? This is showmanship. That's a master class of showmanship. You don't have a giant screen behind you, ain't 50 dancers. It's no special effects. It's two brothers doing the talent that God gave them. And when I tell you the energy coming off of that was ridiculous. So, we're supposed to have song for song. Okay, you go back and look at that dance hall. That was just one long mixtape, bro. It was times in there. This is no joke. And I'm telling you, as somebody who tries, again, going back to that, I try not to be this and I try to be that. I try to be halfway. That was definitely one where an hour into it, I lost my composure, bro. I was not, you know what I mean? I wasn't a business person. I was just, and I don't know the words 90% of what they were saying. I couldn't tell you. I needed subtitles. I couldn't tell you. This again, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Shabba Ranks and Bob Marley was about the closest I got to the culture in dance hall. But the energy, bro, when the police came in, by the way, this is all real. When the police came in and wanted to shut that down, that was mid-COVID. And literally Bounty Killer's like telling the police officer, don't be that guy that half of Jamaica is watching this stuff. And the police even had to be like, all right, let's fall back. And then literally Bounty Killer snatches the mic from him and they just go crazy for like 10 minutes, bro. And I mean, the memes that came out, that was one of those ones where not only was the performance fire, the memes that came out of it, bro, had me crying. You look at like Beanie Man and half that stuff, Bounty Killer. And I think it's no joke. I think I bought every record. Now that I think I could tell you, every record that Bounty Killer and Beanie Man have been on, not just their solo stuff, every record they've been on, I probably spent about $500 the next day and bought every single record. And like I said, I could have got it for free, but at the end of the day, it's out of love. Like I didn't want to waste the time texting somebody asking them for that stuff. That's how much love. And to me, that one Versus signals why we do it. It's because, again, you might not have thought I really want to see Beanie Man and Bounty Killer tonight. But once that came on, you were like, thank God this on, bro.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's stuff
we got a round table this thing. Since you're talking about it, Steve, not bad. Now, Dej, come on. Like, what was your favorite? Let us know. Let's round table this thing.
Yeah.
What was your favorite?
What's the favorite verses?
What's your favorite verses?
My favorite verses? Oh,
yeah.
Favorite verses all the time, and just the feeling.
No, don't make me do that, y'all. Because
I mean, by the way, you don't have to have a single favorite.
One that you was excited for.
Yeah.
Like, what was the one that was you like? I gotta be home at 8 o'clock because they're gonna start this live, and I gotta be there with my drink. I gotta have this. I gotta, you know what I mean? What was that one?
She gonna say Mario and Marion. My bad. I didn't mean to mess it up for you. I didn't mean to mess it up for you. I'm messing with you.
I was definitely trying not to, but yeah, those like, yeah.
That was the one.
It's all good. I really enjoyed. By the way, I really enjoyed that myself.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean. I really did enjoy that.
We from the city. I ain't gonna hold you. Nothing felt like the Locks and Dips. I just gotta keep it a bean.
Yeah, again, man. Shout out to Swizz and
a very close second place, John Fat Joe, but Locks and very close second place, John Fat Joe, but Locks and Dipset for me. I mean, and I watched a lot of them. Lot of them, Steve. Like that's why I knew you was gonna say Beanie and Bounty. That's why I didn't want. That's why I was like,
no, it's all good.
Say Bounty Killer because they went off, they went crazy. But I understand like every audience was different. You know, when the Queens was on there, that's all they could talk about. When the Queen took that mic, they was like, the Queen is back. And trust me, every audience person got what they was looking for. But you know, for us in the city, you know, like I said, the Locks and
that's what I love
in the garden. In the garden,
that's what I love, man, and because it is diversified. And I say that not to big up verses. You know, like I said, I got to shout out my brothers and the whole team. What I love about it is it's not just one lane. You know, so like I said, you're looking at gospel, they got that. You're looking at old school R&B, they got that. You're looking at the ladies, Brandy and Monica, Ashanti, Keisha Cole. Those are actually the biggest verses in terms of viewership. And then we had Teddy Riley and Babyface to kick it off. Okay. And, you know, UGK, you know, shout out to Bun B to rep UGK at 8 Ball and MJG. I was in Atlanta when they did that, and that went crazy. Gucci, you know, and Jeezy. You know, people, again, another one of my favorites, SWV and Escape, because they're two of my favorite groups. And people forget how many records both of those groups had. SWV, in my opinion, is one of the greatest groups of all time. And I think they proved that then, and obviously they continue to go on. When you really start thinking about catalog, that 3 or 4 album run is incredible. But I'll bring it back to tie in. One of the things that I love is that the Lord has given me proximity to some of my heroes in a way that I could help. But at the same token, what I wish for is more of us got in to help in our own way, and that we really start pouring life into these people because they need it and we need it.
Message.
The truth of the matter is, and like I said, you know, I know people think beef is a part of hip hop culture and the whole nine, and it is, but it's not the only part.
Facts.
You know, and so I won't go into hoping that people minimize that, because that to me is a hard road. But I just feel like, hey, it's okay to work, you know, to honestly say these people are heroes. It's okay to say they influence you, whether it's male, female, gay, straight, black or white. You know, I mean, again, I'll tell you a dream versus that I have that we're not working on, but a dream of mine would be, let's get Michael McDonald and Daryl Hall. You know, do something, and let's really bring all the rappers that sampled all those records. Let's put it together. Let's figure out a way using AI. Let's literally get Sly and the Family Stone versus James Brown.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't have to just be the solo records. It's everything. Imagine Eric B and Rakim reuniting to do I Know You Got Soul and having Bobby Bird and James Brown's legacy be preserved. You know, those are the type of things that when people say, have y'all run out of, you know, stuff to do, again, without telling you what's coming up, I just laugh and say, that's the fastest way for you to tell me you don't know about what we're doing.
Right.
Message.
Well, Steve, when they was talking about bringing on the producers, I was getting excited. So that's in line with that. Like, I know there's a lot of
absolutely.
When Diddy was talking about going against Jermaine Dupri, that's what I was starting to get crazy. Like, if the producers, if the producers come on,
that broke the internet.
Well,
Because you
again,
got to change
without
the music now.
without
Dre, come on.
without
Oh man, it's gonna get crazy.
saying anything, that to me is another example of how deep this goes. You
Yeah,
have producers, you have
yeah,
songwriters that
yeah.
are talented, right? You have artists, we have bands, again, New Edition. Again, shout out to Biv. He's one of the people that I respect and admire in the business. If you really start talking about all the music that New Edition has touched, just to be candid, and I can speak on it because we don't have anything tied up with them. I don't know who would go against them. Like to make it a complete and fair show.
I don't think
Like
they got
who
any
would do
group
right?
comparison.
Because you're talking about a situation where you don't just have that band, you've got four other mega acts, right? You've got New Edition, you've got Bobby Brown, Ralph Tresvant, Johnny Gill, and Belle Biv DeVoe.
Bell Biv DeVoe.
Yeah.
So if you listed those in a concert, that's a festival,
Facts.
right?
That's
That's
a
a
fact.
festival, right? You could literally say, okay, who's gonna go against them just on ballots? Who's gonna go against them? You know what I mean? Like real talk. You could literally put that out there. You talking about Johnny Gill got my. Literally, like what are we talking about here? Like that's unfair. But what I love about it is that just to be able to talk about those brothers in what they've contributed, right? Who cares what their problems have been? Why do we wait for behind the music to celebrate what I call the third act, right? Behind the music is classic. There's the rise, there's the fall, and then there's a redemption. What about just showing the redemption? What about showing that, wait a minute, despite our frailties, despite our problems, despite all the things, these people still are legends and they still deserve to be respected for what they gave us. Not how much money they made, not what contract they, had, not what abuses they did or abuses they took, but just what they gave us.
Message.
Leave it at that. And right now, to be candid, if I look around the podcast space, if I look around the entertainment space, it's, out of 100 podcasts, 98 of them want to tell you the same story. You could just retweet over and over again about how bad we are to each other.
Message.
Talk about it. That shit is crazy. But I do want to ask you because
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
you have so much business impact. I mean, this is why we have fucking 4-hour episodes. But I do want to ask you. I want to ask you about the wife you got.
Mayel, I gotta give it props on there. Mayel. So
what's up?
yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah, no. So
I need to know all this stuff.
Melvin and Monique Rodriguez, young couple, man, from Chicago, have a business in Northwest Indiana, right there in the suburbs. Just love at first sight. It's just true story. I tell people all the time, I had a crush on them as people before I understood the numbers.
Message.
We were introduced, through mutual acquaintances and give a shout out to them. And the first time I heard Monique talk about, again, her aspirations for the brand, she understood the consumer. She's a former nurse. So she was in the oncology department. She understood the damage, to be honest, some of these things can cause us because, you have men and women putting something on their body, right? Your hair is an extension of an organ, right? So you're literally putting something in and on your body on a daily basis. You don't know what it is. So that's even before we get to the fact it's from our community and we can keep the money in house. Because if we put out poison, I don't want to be involved in it. Let's be super clear, right? But she had that aspiration, and Melvin, her husband, I never forget. So the private equity firm that invested in them put myself and Rich Dennis on the board. Rich is the owner of Essence and the Essence Music Festival. So it was the two of us and Melvin and Monique. And when I first got to know Melvin, one of the first things he did was he showed me a picture of the factory and how they just installed a new line and the whole nine. And he was going off about frankly, the machinery. And I just thought to myself, I said, man, I mess with these people because when you're showing me, it's like you have a restaurant and imagine people want to walk you through and they show you the decorations and the art and the whole nine. Imagine somebody who's a restaurant owner that wants to show you the ovens, wants to show you the refrigerator, wants to show you what they bought, and took so much pride in the little things that I said, you know what? Independent of the business aspect, I want to be around these people because they think they're learning from me. I'm learning from them.
Message.
People, you want to see good people doing well. That makes you want to do well, right? I don't want to come to the meeting and I'm coming off some BS on my side. So I'm like, okay, now I'm with them. I got to step it up. And what I've seen them do, and obviously, the business has transitioned to Procter and Gamble. We were very blessed and fortunate with that. And again, there's always, that tension, right? You got a great business. Somebody comes along, wants to buy that business. Okay, now is it out of the community's hands and all of that? And I would say rather than retread the million arguments on both sides, because I see both sides, but I will say this, the question I don't see being asked, and I wish more people would ask because I know they've got a great answer, is not why did you sell that business, but what are you doing with the money you got from that business? That Monique and Melvin in particular are excellent stewards of that. And I'm not talking about just from their family, I'm talking about to the community without mentioning their other businesses that are owned by Black women in that space that immediately did not have to go to JPMorgan, right? Came to them. And so when I see young Black people getting flack, who, by the way, nose is clean, don't do anything, sold their business, let's just say, for more than everybody in hip hop claims they ever made, right? Like, let's be real. There's a difference between the fake chain money we got and the real money that they're sitting on. That's just
Message.
That's
we have
real.
to keep that 100%. Okay. At the end of the day, when I see what they're doing in the community, when I see what they're still holding P&G's feet to the fire in terms of supporting us, if you notice, P&G ain't come out with no situation talking about their anti-DEI.
No,
Okay.
no.
All right. Because they,
Mark Pritchard, Damon, those are
absolutely right. Because they have people in there, including now Melvin and Monique, who are directly impacted by that type of statement. And so, I think for all of us, the lesson learned is we want to build something. If, I make this up, if iHeart comes to you guys and says, listen, I want to acquire this podcast, I want you guys to make a decision based on what you want to do. But at the end of it, it's what do you do with that blessing? If you take $10 and keep it selfishly to yourself and you own 100% of that, and this disappears immediately after you guys don't want to do it, that's $10 going to waste.
means nothing.
If somebody could give you $100 and you take that $100 and now you got 10 podcasts coming up underneath you that you're giving game to, you showing the way. I don't want to hear people talking about you sold out. You sold up, right? And
Message.
to, you got too many people, and I say this all the time about business. People think business is something you do and not a skill you have, right? They really do. They think, oh, I sold, this to such and such. Now I know it. And I tell people all the time, there's a difference between chefs and cooks, right? Both of them making food to eat. But if you go to a culinary school, you can cook for 100 people and have it taste consistently the same and well. Okay. You very few people can go from their mama's house where you cooking for 6 or 7. And if I say I'm bringing 700, know how to make it happen. That's the difference. Mael is not something, it started off in the basement. This is a corporation that Black folks ran and hired hundreds of Black people that honestly participated in that sales growth. So people will get flack for selling that business to P&G, but we don't get flack for the people who go to the store and spend their money on other brands that aren't Black, who give their, I can go down the line. We hurt our own. And a lot of it is because we aren't educated about the process. And I have empathy for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we're better or anything like that. I'm saying part of the thing that we want to know is we want to know how much you sold for. But how many people have sat Monique down and said, girl, what was the process? Because I can't replicate the check, but I can replicate the process. And we focus on the wrong things, and that's just, again, going back to how we could get better. We're supposed to be selling all this stuff for $1 billion, but take that $1 billion and bust it down, and we could get $2 billion investing in it.
Message.
Young, the movie Strictly Business.
Yeah.
It's a movie. So if you watch that movie, at the end of the movie, both of the guys go to who they call the O'Halloran brothers in the back of the club, right? Those brothers gave him the money so that he could do the business, not the bank he was at, right? Those brothers. And I'll never forget my roommate in college, T, love him to death. We sat back when we saw a movie. We said, man, we want to be the O'Halloran brothers. We don't want to be Tommy Davidson. We don't want to be chasing around Halle Berry. I want to sit in the back of the club when y'all get in trouble and you need something, you could come to me. And then I can make it happen. Not the money. I can make things happen. That's power. And I would tell you, Melvin and Mo, they need to be applauded for what they did with Mael. Because again, if it was easy to do, go tell me who else did it.
Yeah.
That's just 100%.
You can't
tell
put
me
too
who
much
else did it.
stock in it, though, Steve. You can't. At some point in time, you just got to understand that people love to just run their fucking mouth.
Oh,
People
you're right.
You understand? At some point in time, we got to draw a line in the sand and say people love to run their mouth because they love gossip. Some people are just fucking gossip people.
It
is, unfortunately, we are not all built the same. Physically, mentally, right? Spiritually, etc. We are not all built the same. And a lot of people recognize that they have shortcomings. And instead of working on their shortcomings, taking the time that they're taking to find out what I'm doing, talk about what I'm doing, spread what I'm doing, etc. Instead of working on your own shortcomings, they redirect that time to just gossiping because they don't have the energy or the fortitude to work through their shortcomings. For them, it's better to just talk about somebody else.
You are absolutely right. And what I was going to say is, what I love about what you just said is now you're practicing the center, right? Because to your point, what you just schooled me on, I could come back like this when I hear people talk about Mael, or I could just be like this.
Yeah.
And what you just schooled me on, you're like, you know what, brother, just take it in perspective.
Right.
Let it bounce off you. Right. It's judo, right? It's not boxing. Yeah. Let it roll off you. And honestly, but that's going back to enlightenment.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, education, again, is not just formal education. Part of it is the informal thing. The more you have knowledge, period, whether it's yourself or the environment, the easier it is for stuff to roll off. Because I tell people, when your plate is full, you're not really looking at what's on mine.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? But the reason why I have empathy for our class and our consumers, right, is that we've been starved so long that right now we're moving out of emotion and desperation. Right. It hasn't been since John Johnson and Soft Sheen. Right. We come back days of the S-curve. We haven't had those big Black consumer products companies.
Right.
And so, we're so starved. Right. And then we end up, when we're starved, we eat our own. We eat each other. And to your point, we got to start looking at the bigger structure. Right. That's why I tell people about business. If we start looking at how business is done, period, then we won't be shocked when some of these things come because we know that's the way.
Message.
I mean, you said replication. You said replication, Steve. Let's talk about that real quickly.
Yeah.
Replication. If it was easy, everybody would fucking do it.
Everybody would do it.
Stop running your mouth, right? It's something that we learned growing up in the neighborhood very quickly, even when we were looking at the hustlers. Let's call them hustlers, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Some of the hustlers were getting a little bit of money, and then some of them was getting a lot of money. But the ones that was getting a lot of money, it wasn't 100 of them getting a lot of money. It was 1 or 2 of them.
Well,
you see, 1 or 2 of them. Everybody else was the
brother. You are breaking it so far down. No,
right,
because let me tell you again, it goes back to their skill and will and everything. right? Even negative, right? So one of the things I tell people all the time when we break down even what I would call crime, right? Just look at the statistics. Black people are actually unsuccessful at crime.
I didn't
We
know that.
actually are. No,
I
I'm
didn't know
just
that.
no. Let's break it down very clear. How many episodes of Narcos do you think it would have to be before you got to BMF? So we're talking about in
Mm,
Colombia, there's dirt
mm,
farmers, right? And now
mm.
they have $1 trillion organizations.
Right.
You've never once heard them say, we going to war with the cartel, and people like, oh, let's strap it up in Washington, D.C. Like we're so far on the totem pole because going back to, we don't even examine the entire value chain of drugs. Drugs, by definition, is an agricultural product, right? It all comes from
Right.
plants.
Plants.
Okay, right. Where's the giant field that we own?
Right.
Right. We'll kill each other to take the supply. And part of the reason why the music business and other entertainment businesses are metaphorically like those type of illegal products is because those products have more demand than supply. So basic economics. And when you have more demand than supply, what do you want to control? Point of distribution
Mhm.
and pricing. So at the end of the day, that's no different than if you want to see a movie in IMAX, you can't go to any theater. Where you got to go? Art theater. And then if we have the real estate on the corner that we know is Lincoln Center, is Times Square, is Union Square, we control that. So we got to get you off our corner, right? And then we got to set the price because we know once we do that, then we'll keep you coming back. And then we might water it down, we might bust it up or whatever. But frankly, we're gonna do the same thing. And so I don't say that to encourage any illegal activity, but the problem we have is that you have people understanding the game through experience, right? And you have other people who study the game, right? And they're able to come and innovate on it. And what I tell people all the time is we keep saying it's street money out here, but even if we believe that, we're not applying the discipline or the ambition, right? We dream about knowing the supplier. Like if you even listen to the rap lyrics, they'll tell you they dream about knowing the supplier. I got the plug from Colombia. Well,
Yeah.
by definition, that means you dream of being somebody's employee. You
Noriega
dream of
Obi.
buying something. Yeah, there you go. Which again, we won't even get into whether that's true or not. We
Yeah,
all
no,
understand what that is. But what I'm saying is that why would I even lie at a low level? That's what's actually hilarious to me. We know that's untrue, but my self-esteem so low, I'm lying to you about being the underboss. I'm lying to you about being regional manager. You know, we got shows and again, love this stuff. We'll do a show called The Godfather of Harlem. Love that show, by the way. Swizzy, everybody
Mark
around that
Horn.
show,
That's Mark Horn.
right?
Yeah.
That absolutely love
Mhm.
that show, right? Okay. But when you think about the title, we automatically confine in our dreams and aspirations to one area. Even though that's based on history, that's where we are. We don't even on the legal sense, we don't want to control the what we have someone who's president of the whole United States legally. We don't have nobody that control even the drug trade in the United States legally or illegally, I should say.
I never thought about that. You just said
So
it's the Godfather when it's them, and it's the Godfather of Harlem when it's us.
because listen, we want to be the tallest short person. That's the truth of the matter.
What the is wrong with this guy? Am I kidding me? Or what?
Wow.
That's
No,
right.
but that's what we want to do.
real.
It's like
That's
if
a
I
part.
can express my superiority over Nadaj, if I could express my superiority over you brothers, all of a sudden I'm the guy. But that's not a sign of me being courage. That's a sign of me being weak. Right. So even in the music business, it's gonna get me in a lot of trouble. But I want to say this is that again, you work around all these tough guys, right? Everyone will say, oh, the music business ripped me off. First of all, let me tell you how you know that's not true. Okay, if all these ex-drug dealers came into the music business and you, again, came up short on them, all of a sudden the brick is missing, they'll have you believe you losing your life. Okay. I go to every award show, I go to every industry event, the BET Awards this weekend. How many executives, the address, Atlantic Records is right there on 6th Avenue, Universal's right there on Broadway. Okay. you'll come in and somebody will threaten Kevin Lyles, or they'll pull a gun on anybody that looks like us. When you seen Lucien Grange ever get his life threatened?
Mm.
By the way, you know where he at. So let me just say, if we have an industry that these rappers will tell you has ripped us off consecutively for years, and nobody's done a thing about it. But meanwhile, we just shot each other, we killed each other, we hitting them up, we doing all type of stuff since the days of Tupac and Biggie, and prior to that, you know what I'm saying? Since Scott LaRock, right? We've managed to kill each other. Name me a Caucasian executive that's died. Name one. Name one.
Healthcare, I don't know.
Name one. Again, Suge Knight is in jail because he killed a person on the set of Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah.
That's a fact, right?
He ran him
Okay.
over with the Raptor. Yeah.
But during Straight Outta Compton, again, I don't condone any violence. The whole movie would tell you how people ripped off NWA.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any of those people that rip off NWA, they died of old age. But that's mental slavery. That has nothing to do with us. It has to do with the conditioning that if a disrespectful tweet comes out, we ready to like throw hands and bullets. Okay, half of Memphis is torn up because of disrespect. Meanwhile, can't nobody show me the wealth. Can't nobody show me the money. Can't nobody show me the businesses that's been built off of us killing each other. Hip hop been around. We just celebrated a few years ago, 50th birthday. Okay. Hip hop and I are the same age. If I told you I lived my entire life and I hadn't accumulated anything other than accolades, y'all would feel sorry for me. But name a hip hop label that's independent. QC is not part of a K-pop label, right? TDE is killing it, but Kendrick got PG Lang. They're killing it. But these aren't independent companies. There are no Motowns. There's no Death Row. There's no Def Jam. It's name only. None of these things exist. After 50 years, after we got money, after we killed each other, after we disrespected. So I personally don't want to hear when you got the biggest star in the world is doing country music. And people wonder why. What is the karma? What do we like? Again, I go back to, I'm all for everybody saying, oh, I need to get money to feed my family. Then just show me the money. That's all I'm looking for. I'm just saying, show me the ownership. Show me where we really doing it.
Message.
Like, show me. And if people could show me, I'm willing to learn and study. But at the same token, when you look at Rihanna getting her money from cosmetics and beauty, right? I sit there and say, most of these artists shouldn't be asking me about Coachella. They should be asking me about Mael.
Come on.
But you did that. Right? Now, this 100%. I don't know if Monique, and I'll put that out there for any rapper, any artist, any person of color, Monique probably gonna kill me for saying this. Y'all should be blowing her up.
Facts.
Monique Rodriguez is richer than all these rappers. And she was making hair cream in her kitchen at some point.
Come on.
How do you get private equity investors? How do you get a chance to sell it to Procter & Gamble? And how do you do that safely walking down the street? You don't need no security. Her kids are going to college. Like, kids is going. And her high school is scholarships. And so I'm looking around, I'm like, listen, we want to be, I won't mention names, but we get mad that it ain't more female rappers. I'm like, at the end of the day, what are we talking about with this self-destruction? I'd go back to Chris in there.
Yep.
Self-destruction, 40 years old. And more people dying today in hip hop than any other time. And we killing ourselves. ODing, going to jail, doing stuff. Come on, man. What are we talking about? So bringing it full circle, the gift is I've seen a lot and the Lord's blessed me to see a lot. The curse is I sometimes in my position feel powerless because I'm like, okay, let me get this straight. It's still just me and a few people. And who want to be at the party no matter how loud the music is, no matter how cool the drink is, no matter what's going on. Who want to be there with the same old people doing the same old thing? You know, that's not being unselfish. That's being selfish. We came up and it was people I looked up to, Andre Harrell, Dick Parsons, Quincy Jones, Clarence Avant, Steve McKee. I go down the line, man. Titans. You know what I'm saying? Titans. All right. Then I look below me, I see some people on Instagram, but they're not going to be CEO of a real business. They can call themselves CEO. That's like, at the end of the day, like I said, you a cook, you're not a chef.
Cook, not a
You
chef.
just in the kitchen, but you're not really doing it like that. And the reason you're not really doing it like that, and I'll end it on this note, is what you're doing isn't teachable, it isn't replicable, and it isn't scalable. If everything I do, I complicate it so much, y'all can't do it over and better, then how do I have a legacy?
Message.
That's just, again, that's 100% real. And I learned from the best. These people that I mentioned, Larry Miller, who ran Jordan for years, these people, I'm telling y'all literally everything they told me. And that's the crazy thing, which is that my generation and the people below us, everybody in this, I got mine. I want to be the guy, but they don't know what the guy is. The guy is the guy who got guys.
Message.
You want to be a leader. This is all I tell you all the time. These people claim they leaders, and you can't find nobody that follow them. 100%. You a leader because you got more money, but don't nobody respect you. You a leader because you saying you a leader, or I'm a leader because you afraid of me because I'm holding this job over you. Well, I grew up on the South Side. God, you a punk. And I don't advocate physical violence, but if I did, who would be first in line? These punks. But we letting the punks represent us. We letting the story of these punks be the headline story in the music business. And most of these people ain't even really active. You know what I'm saying? That's what's crazy. It's like, wait a minute. We talking about people. It's like we talking about the high school careers of people in the 90s. Come on now. What we talking about? It's 2026. And we still on that. We ain't come together. That's why I applaud, what Jay doing with Fat Joe and Nas and everybody. They together. They one click.
That's so
They
crazy.
one click. But guess what? 30 years ago, I probably would have been called insane if I would have said, you know what, y'all should put all this stuff down. Y'all gonna be kicking it with each other anyway in 30 years. Like real talk, people would have thought I was crazy. Fat Joe's somewhere wearing the Rock Nation hat right now. Okay. Nas kicking it with Jay. Nas made more money investing in technology than anyone. All right.
Everybody.
Chameleonaire, everything. So I go back to say, if we know how this movie gonna end, we know how the horror movie gonna end, and we know how the love movie gonna end. When you got a choice, I won't mention names, between going left negative and going right positive, and you don't follow the positive, it's you. Because we can't act like we don't know the happy end is. You just mentioned Chameleon there. I could tell you, MC Hammer, this is on God. Look this up. There's no better person. There's no better human being. There's no better business person in hip hop than MC Hammer. I stand on that 100%. Personally, MC Hammer has done a lot for me and other individuals. MC Search, fantastic guy. I go down the line. There are some legends that have made a lot of impact and a lot of money outside of the game because they don't play the game. But because they don't play the game, people looking at them sideways. E40.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
The book of
E40.
Come on.
Again, I'm telling y'all, we keep thinking of these people as exceptions. They're the rule. For these young brothers and sisters, they're the rule. E40 is class, bro. Anybody that's ever been around him, just class, bro. He gonna win. You mentioned Chameleon there. You mentioned all the Bay Area dudes. Because guess what? They out there with the knowledge and the information on the digital side. They're out there keeping game. E40 ain't just going to the basketball game just watching Steph. You watch who E40 sit next to at the game. You Google them and look those people up.
Yeah, I love it.
You
You know,
know?
Steve, I got
No.
we going crazy. I love
No,
I
no.
love this conversation. We're gonna need a part
Yeah.
2, and we got to get you in Cannes. If you go to Cannes, you're gonna holler at us. But one thing I do want to ask you,
Yeah, yes, sir.
the selfish question, right? And
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
what's one piece of game that you would give to us specifically? What's one, because you gave a lot of game.
Oh, no.
About the media landscape.
Absolutely.
What's one piece of game that you would give to more than a title? Because we always say impact over metrics. We talk about the game. We need 4,000 people to be hearing this conversation. It might be
No. I'll
right
tell
now.
you point blank. You know, the biggest brands in the world have a consistent promise and a consistent presentation. You go look at a Coke can. Every now and then they do the promotions like with the names and the whole nine. From 100 yards away, you see that red. You understand that's Coke. Okay. So what I would tell you guys is that the difference between a podcast that's going places and this, and this is not a critique, this is just elevation.
It's the real, yeah.
Everybody should have a standard background, including me. You know what I mean? You should send me a JPEG, say, Steve, this is it. This is the set we on, right? This is the branding. Instead of a black background, get a picture or a color that actually doesn't contrast with you guys. And every show, the only difference should be whether it's the placement, you guys in the squares, the whole nine, is the guest. That's the only variation. And the reason I say this is because, believe it or not, a human being, there's a great book by an author named Clayton Christensen. It's an old book, but you guys should get it. It's called The Innovator's Dilemma. And what it is that the tendency for companies and for people is every day you want to get better. And the problem is when you're in a customer focused business, your ability to get better every day sometimes gets out of whack with the consumer's ability to accept everything. So complication, but the reality of it is they like McDonald's, not because the food is great, the food's consistent. Meaning at the end of the day, I know whether I'm in Tokyo, Japan, or I'm in South Orange, New Jersey, I know what those French fries gonna taste like. They may not be the world's best fries, but I don't want to think about that. And that becomes scalable. And there's a reason why there might be 100,000 McDonald's locations and there might be 1,000 Five Guys. It's not because it's the burger. At the end of the day, it's the replication. So with media, when you look at CNN, when you look at Sports Center, the set is the same every day. Whether they're talking about the Knicks, whether they're talking about the Yankees, it's going to be the same. So my very practical advice when you guys go to Cannes, you know, and God bless, depending on schedule, I'll be out there with you guys, is I want to see you. You go to Adrian Smith and, you know, whether you got to get some poster board or whatever, it could look crazy janky out there to the people. Because by the way, if you ever go to these sets like NFL game day or when they're on site and you really see what they're working with on site, you're like, wait, that's it. But the way the camera's cropped in, the way it's zoomed, it looks like, oh my God, bro, these guys spend a fortune. But I need you guys have that backdrop that reflects you. If y'all on the ocean, it should be leveled up. I don't care if you got 4 podcast viewers. I need y'all to act like, what would we do with 4 million? Right? Because the best advice, Dick Parsons, I got to give him credit for this. Rest in peace. He was the best boss I ever had. Dick told me one day, he asked me, this was like 30 years ago. He said, what do you want to be? And I told him at the time, I said, I want to be CEO of HBO. And the best advice he gave me, he said, well, starting tomorrow, I need you to act like the CEO of HBO. I said, what do you mean? He said, would the CEO of HBO wear that suit? He said, would the CEO of HBO speak to the security person coming in? Would the CEO of HBO in a meeting understand just the marketing or just the account? Or would the CEO understand everything? Would the CEO work or would the CEO do all this? Because he told me, he said, before you get tapped, you got to be that. And we used to watch basketball all the time, man. It's back when Turner used to have the NCAA tournament. And he literally told me, he said, Steve, we go to the game. He said, and we looking at the athletes in March Madness, and we talking about who going to go pro or where they going to go. He said, that's because they look like pros. They carry themselves. They might be at Duke, but we looking at Cooper Flag like this is a professional. The way he's moving, the way he approached the interviews, everything. So again, you asked me one piece of advice, I gave you two. The first is common, consistent view, but the second is don't worry about getting to the top of the podcast chart before you handle what you're going to be when you're there. And then be that before that, because that manifests it. At the end of the day, you don't wait till they give you the prize before you act like the winner. You supposed to make it undeniable, like we gotta get it. Like this the show we need to be on. This show $1 million before that. That would be my, two biggest piece of advice to give you guys.
That was the real, man. I love this shit. I love it. I love this thing.
I mean, technically, you reinforce what we already knew because
Yep.
we are fortunate, and let me lead with the word fortunate to have spoken to a bunch of individuals like you who we then tap to be our mentors. So we actually have weekly conversations with our mentors, and one of the biggest things that we've already discussed is the fact that we all need to come together. We're working on getting a set or something like that so we can have a universal front, and or developing some type of a background that we all can show. So for you to say that, really, that's why Cuzzo was laughing. So for you to say that really just reinforces the fact that we understand that we're on the right track.
Yeah.
We're on the right
No,
track.
first of all,
Yeah.
man, I'm saying this again. I consider myself to be a nice person, but I'm not a BSer. Man, y'all way past the right track. Because again, you're not where you want to be, but never forget, like I said with GPS, without judgment, always recognize where you are. My brother, you said y'all 100+ into this. Okay. It's like I can't think of
that was last year. We 200+ now.
So again, bro, you come on. Like stop it. Stop it. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
It's not many people that do anything 200 times. This is what I'm saying. Again, stand on what you can really stand on.
Right.
Always be humble, always, have perspective. But I'm telling you that most of life is not going to be insight, it's going to be affirmation.
Right.
But most of what kills you is going to be the hate. That's not coming from the outside, it's going to be your own doubt. And so what I'm here to just tell you is that when you're looking towards the future, and like I said, I want y'all to, dream big, but I never want you to forget, especially in the bad times. Bro, you done already done this. You done already came a long way. Like, how they say, I tell you all the time, the key phrase, we shouldn't even be here, applies to both the up and the down. When you get knocked down, you shouldn't be there. You the champ. At the same token, when you up, always remember, bro, nobody wanted you there. So you're going to constantly keep that tension going. But don't ever feel like, you need me or anybody else to show you the way. Really what we here to do, and again, not to use too many sports metaphors, apologize, because I can do that. But I don't care who you are, if you're Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali, every 3 minutes, you still sit down and you still have a couple people in your ear giving you game. That don't make you less of a person. Floyd Mayweather ain't never lost a fight. Ask me if he ain't never gone to his corner. And every time his corner say something, is it something new? It might be exactly what he wanted to hear. So again, you in this ring, like I said, y'all literally chose this life. What comes with it is some good. What comes with it is some bad. You're a boxer. You're going to get hit. The key is, are you going to hit more times than you get hit? But ain't no avoiding getting hit. But at the same token, you're going to be the champ. Muhammad Ali ain't undefeated. He considered the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
so that should tell you right there. There you go. And by the way,
what's the odds of that?
Yeah.
There you go. And by the way, rest in peace to Big George Foreman.
Yeah.
Right? Because Big George Foreman lost the Rumble in the Jungle.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Big George Foreman also, rest in peace, had every dream, including the championship he ever won. And went from being somebody that, Ali, disrespected in the whole nine, went from being a hated person to, again, these are facts. This is my opinion. George Foreman had one of the highest Q scores in the advertising world ever. George Foreman was thought of as a big person who's a teddy bear, chocolate smiley face. George Foreman had a multi-million-dollar contract to broadcast the fights with HBO. George Foreman was the oldest heavyweight champion in history.
Yeah.
So when George Foreman lost to Ali, it was two kings there. One person lost that day, one person won. But after that, George still got a title. And by the way, George outlived and outlasted every one of them. Frazier, Ali, the whole nine in the real game, and that's called life. So you might be getting knocked down, and this might be your Thriller in Manila. Say it doesn't go well in Cannes or whatever the heck. That just might be that point in time. That don't mean you ain't gonna be the champ. I'll leave it on this note. No, but I'll leave it on this note. When you're wearing that shirt, man, think about those ups and downs. Y'all New York people, y'all Madison Square Garden fans. Okay, the biggest event, you go to Madison Square Garden, they got a 360 wheel that shows the 360 biggest events. When I was at JPMorgan Chase, MSG was one of my deals. So we put that in. You see Chase everywhere. You go to that, the number one event in Madison Square Garden history is Ali Frazier 1. Okay? Who won Ali Frazier 1?
I don't even know. I'm gonna be honest with you.
You a hint. Look it up. It wasn't Ali. Wasn't Ali.
Right.
Okay. Wasn't Ali, bro. Ali got his jaw broken, the whole nine. Them dudes beat the crap out of each other, but Frazier won. That was before the Rumble in the Jungle. That was before the Thriller in Manila. Okay. That was before Jerry Cooney. So what I'm trying to tell you is that shirt you got on represents the greatest that ever did it. But that shirt you got on does not represent undefeated. Right? At the end of the day, when you're wearing that shirt, I guess my whole thing, and again, we'll close it on
now
this.
You're gonna go crazy with the shirt now.
No, we're gonna go crazy, but we're gonna close it on this. Is that, bro? If Ali took that L, and to your point, you can't even remember, and he took that L at Madison Square Garden at that time, that was the biggest sporting event in the world. When you take a defeat, and the only people that know is your co-host or your family, don't tell me you can't come up and still be the greatest. Why can't the T-shirt have Jared on it? I'm not telling you it's gonna happen. I just want to know from you why it can't happen.
Yeah.
And and that's what I need y'all. I love the mentorship, but again, what I want from y'all is I want the peer stuff. I want you to die when you feeling like, oh man, the brothers on my nerves, they doing this, and this, whatever. I need you to tell yourself, you dealing with a bad round, that may not be a fight, but you planning on a career and a legacy. That round ain't gonna make no difference. I got no idea. Like I said, I love Ali, love what he doing. You ask me who won the 7th round with him and Jerry Cooney. I got no idea.
Right.
Don't nobody care. But at the time, oh my God, it felt like this is do or die, bro.
Yeah.
This do or die. And that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. All this stuff is minutes in a round, is rounds in a fight, is fights in a career, and a career is just one part of your legacy. When you start to pan out and look at all this stuff, you're going to start to, again, hold your hand. You're going to be like, the ups and the downs, that's part of the roller coaster. Doesn't mean it's fun. Doesn't mean it's easy. You're a human being. But it does mean there's more winners than losers. And most of the losers take the loss internally before they do it externally.
Message.
Or you don't hurt yourself.
This is a classic. I ain't gonna. This is a classic. We're gonna do a part 2, but we're gonna end this off right, Steve.
Yep.
Before we do, I put my number in the where it says 4 people, where it says us. Please don't put it in the comments. But we put what we usually like to do after every episode. We start a group chat. Us 4.
Okay.
Obviously, we'd love to build a relationship. We're not transactional. That's not what we
come on, man. Quit playing.
You know how we are now, but you can tell by 2 hours.
So before I do this, I'll put my number here. That's not gonna go public, is it?
No, put it with 4 people.
Okay,
Don't
all
put it
right.
in comments. Please don't put it in
And
comments.
by the way, this is the truth of the matter is because again, man, shout out, oh wait, did I put in? Oh no, that's the wrong
You
number. I'm
good, you good,
sorry.
we
I
good.
got y'all wrong number. I'm gonna get you hold on, get y'all right. But anyway, the point is that at the end of the day, this not only goes for you guys, for anybody. Hit me up on LinkedIn, send me a DM. You know how we do. I might not get back immediately, but I'm gonna get back, to everybody because this is what we do for each other. I cannot promise one man, so I can't promise 24/7 availability. However, I will say this. I absolutely have all the intent to help people out because, frankly, this is what we do. This is my legacy. So
This
y'all
is
count on me.
right here.
Yeah.
Look, tell people, tell the fans, this is our first time speaking.
That's right. That's right.
So let's tell the people, and let's keep it all the way real for the people that's watching.
That's right.
It's all those people on Instagram. Shout out to y'all. This is our first time speaking, right? I don't know what episode. I think it was Adrian's episode, but I saw
It was Adrian's episode.
Like the post, and I said I saw the check mark. A lot of times, be the chart mark. They'd be like, all right, but I saw Steve join. I was like, oh, boom. I'm like, yo, this is who? What?
Yep.
What? Watching our stuff, and I shot the shot almost immediately. As soon as you like the whoop,
Yeah,
I was there. And
well,
you were
I
so
loved
real.
it.
And
No,
you
I loved it. I loved it because here's the truth of the matter is, for people that don't know, Adrian Smith, who's talking about, we went to college together. We've been friends for a long time. And it was one thing that she said that I really loved. When she first started doing, Color Collective at Cannes and what she's doing now with the Inkwell Beach and stuff, she did not start that at a good time for her. I let her tell her story. Okay.
He told us.
And now, by the way, it's, everybody wants to be there. So I just would tell everybody that sometimes during your worst is when your best really comes through. And, this is a sister, I've known her for 30 some years, and she been that person. And I didn't know she was going through that until I saw it on your podcast. So it just goes to show that at the end of the day, everybody thinks they're the odd person out, either in success or failure. We all going through it. Again, y'all all God's children. We doing good. We doing better than we should, but nobody is 100% happy. So don't ever hold yourself to that standard. And the most important thing is you can't control what the world does to you, but you can absolutely control what you do to the world. And so what I love is, like I said, man, when you told me just don't worry about the people, don't worry about whatever, I tell people all the time, I love the people, even if I don't like them all the time. But the truth of the matter is, but the truth of the matter is we wouldn't be us if we didn't go through these emotional ups and downs, because that's the sign you care. And so, in conclusion, man, I care about what y'all doing because y'all care about us. I want y'all to keep it going. I want y'all to interview and support yourself because y'all going to look back on some of these episodes. And again, it's not going to be about the guests. It's going to be about you guys. You're going to see the growth. I can guarantee you the 200 episode, you look at the first episode, if y'all don't see the growth, y'all tripping. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? I also want you to know, come 400, you going to look back and be like, I can't even look at episode 200. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I love. And just keep at it.
Yeah.
Real talk. Just keep at it.
All right, Jared, you got his number, but you didn't invite him properly, Jared. You got to invite him.
I know, sis, you got something to say before we end up, before we do the proper intro. I mean, the outro. It's an intro.
No, I think he dropped in so many gems. I'm good. I'll always ask for more. So usually on the episode, I always ask our guests, I say you should never pour from your cup. You should pour from your saucer. You're supposed to fill your cup up, and then whatever runneth over is what you pour into others. So if there's anything from your saucer you can just share with our audience today, I'm sure they all got their pen and papers ready like I do.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I think we said it all.
Yeah.
I just, to be honest, I think it's interesting to use that saucer metaphor and the cup. I mean, I just feel like we all in the same thing, right? So it's, I guess the biggest thing I would just say is don't ever operate from scarcity. Meaning at the end of the day, y'all got so much to give. Like I said, I know y'all are interviewing, me, but to be honest, your energy is what brought it out of me. You know, I mean, I'm not having this conversation. You can search the internet, you know, and other people have done interviews with me. I've not given the same answers. So everybody just appreciate themselves, what they bring to the table, obviously operate with humility. But I would tell you, people think arrogance is the biggest problem I see in entertainment. It's not. The biggest problem I see in entertainment is insecurity.
Mm.
That was real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I would just dwell on that. And when you see people moving in certain fashions, you know, ask yourself, even if they may come off super arrogant or come off, you know, on a note that seems aggressive, they really operate from fear and insecurity. Some of these people are acting up before you recognize that they're afraid. And, you know, we need more hugs in the game and less disrespect, you know. And so, but you can't do that until you're ready to hug yourself. You know, that's all. That's honestly, I'm giving you that at 54. I didn't know that at 44 or 34. But the older you get, the more you realize, man, what are we beefing for if we know we all gonna be cool?
That's a real. Yeah, cousin, take us home, man.
Well, listen, Steve. Listen, Steve. Let me just. This is the way we end off the show. First and foremost, welcome to the More Than the Title family. And let me tell you what that entails. We created this platform to be the Clarence Avon. So when you said Clarence Avon, that's why Cuzzo laughed so hard, because we actually use him as a reference. We created this platform to give our people a voice, right? Their voice, right? That's why we don't do clickbait. We don't do salacious stuff. Tell your story the way you want it, and it's going to come out exactly like that, right? To humanize people, right? More than the title. So welcome to the family. We appreciate you sincerely for coming on. So what that entails is, now, like I said, we've had 200 plus episodes. We've had 200 plus guests. We don't gatekeep, right? So now you have access to every guest that we've ever had on the show, whether you know them or not, whether you're in the same industry or not. If you happen to come across a guest that we've had on the show previously, or in the future, you see a guest that we have on, you say, hey, I would like to get, to know that person or connect with that person. That's why we do the group chat. No assistants, no managers. We just go directly to us. You'll say, hey, I'd like to meet person A. We'll check your schedule. We'll check with them, put you guys on a Zoom call. A, this is B, B, this is A, and we get off the call. Okay. And whatever you guys do with that is on you. And we've done this over 24 times. Business deals have come from this, et cetera, and we don't ask for a dime. We have not gotten paid. We do not ask to get paid. This is our way of saying thank you, right? Of continuing to build that bridge back and forth, right?
Love it.
That's number one. Number two. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, if you're ever in New York and you're doing any type of an event and you would like some support, whether we're covering the event or we're just, showing up to support you, please let us know, because we love to support our guests when they come in. Or if we're in, an area where you're at, we'll contact you and say, hey, we just happen to be in your town. And, if you want to connect and get some lunch or something, some beers, or, because like Cuzzo said, we're not transactional and we believe in building the relationship. So welcome to the More Than the Title.
Yeah, my man. So just to build on that, Jerry, you got my information. Send me a thing. At IMAX, we're doing I wouldn't say a premiere, but we're doing a special screening of the movie F1. It's super
the race car, one.
Absolutely, with Brad Pitt. Absolutely.
What's the guy from
Snowfall?
What's his name? I can't pronounce his name. Damon Idris. Yeah.
So it's gonna be super huge, be fun. Love for the three of you guys. Obviously you guys can bring a plus one. Just pull up. I may not even be there, but I would love for you guys to experience, that and see what it is, see what we're working with there.
Yeah.
And look, again, it's nothing, man. It would be you and 1,000 other, folks there. But what I want to have happen is, again, man, you guys really see the work, because that's what I tell. I want people talking about the work. It's too many people talking about the gossip and who did what. Let's focus on the work and then let's get to work. But I love it. Love what you guys are putting together. The three of you guys, fantastic. It felt super comfortable. Jared prepared me, very well. Said, yo, it's going to be a conversation. And literally it's a conversation. I feel like y'all just sitting on the couch, just here, man. And again,
He's literally
everything
he's sitting on the couch.
yeah, absolutely.
He's literally sitting on the couch.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, the beautiful thing is, man, this is my opinion. I tell everybody, listen, I don't speak for the industry. I just speak for me. This is my views, but I stand on it.
There it is. And with that being said, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we let off with the word phenomenal. We let off with the word amazing. We told you, get your tape decks ready. And we told you what it was going to be. And for 2.5 hours, this man came here and dropped nothing but gems. Once again, he was intimate about his upbringing. He told you, he said, I'm not going to fake the funk. This is how I grew up. I didn't grow up this way. This is what was important to me. This is what wasn't important to me. He told you about his support system, right? With his friends, his family, and the people in his surrounding areas. He told you how important education was to him, right? But one of the also key factors that he also mentioned was the fact that he wasn't afraid to try different things. This man held many different job titles, doing different things, right? He also told you about being financially responsible, right? When you get into the bag, make sure you secure it, but make sure you know how to save it so that on a rainy day, you can have it. You understand? And we talking about the bag. He also said, for all of y'all that's saying that you get in the bag, show me the money, because we ain't seeing the money right now. So you understand, we said all that to say he didn't get to where he's at from not being where he be without doing what he had to do, which reiterates what we say every time. The dream.
But the hustle is so separately, y'all. We see y'all on Tuesday. I love this shit.
Man, love it, bro. Love it.
Appreciate it.